I came here because you're going to get killed. Your computer is going to fail. You got a college and university advisory board telling you they need a powerful workstation for $2,000 to $3,000. You price next at $6,500, and that doesn't include the optional $3,000 hard drive, which people discover isn't optional because the optical disc is too weak to do anything, and the $2,500 laser printer brings the total $12,000. And in the entire world, you are the only person that cares that it's housed in a perfect cube. You're going to get killed. And I came here to stand next to you while that happens because that's what friends do. That's what men do. I don't need your pass. We go back, so don't talk to me like I'm other people. I'm the only one that knows that this guy here is someone you invented. And I'm standing by you because that perfect cube that does nothing is about to be the single biggest failure in the history of podcasting.
Tell me something else I don't know.
You added one extra word.
What's that?
It's just tell me something. Oh, no, you did. You got it perfect.
I got it perfect.
You got it perfect.
It's definitely.
You got it perfect. I didn't cue David the line. I wanted to see if he would know the response.
I mean, but I don't. You didn't even need my. You had it.
No, but it's a nice little punchline.
Yeah, sure.
Should I put podcast in from the beginning, maybe, instead of every time he says the word computer? Or variation thereof?
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, you did great. You did great.
I don't know if you noticed this. I've been trending towards quotes that make it sound like our podcast is terrible.
Yeah, you like to do that.
Because I just think, why not get it out of the way?
I'm kind of surprised you didn't go, I'm going to put 1,000 podcasts in your pocket.
So I thought you might do that because that is almost the most derided quote from this movie.
Correct.
In a way.
Incorrectly.
Incorrect. Our guest is correct that it is incorrectly derided.
We're gonna get to it.
Sure. Well, we're gonna get to everything. We're not gonna leave one stone unturned, my friend.
Also, I'm
trying to think of other, sitters that you could have. That was a good one. I'm trying to think of what else.
I play the orchestra. I feel like that's one of the biggest exchange, which comes right before this, but it doesn't. Yeah. You can't slot podcast in as clean.
Well, it's like hosts play their instruments. I podcast the orchestra.
I was thinking you could have done when Lisa is talking, think different. You're asking people to think differently. You could have said that looks like Judy Jetson's Easy Bake podcast.
That's a good burn. She kind of
nails
kicks
him.
his ass there.
She does.
Yeah.
She folds him like laundry.
Mm-hmm.
David, recently we did our episode on Sunshine. I should say what this is. I should say what we're doing here. The single biggest failure in the history of modern podcasting. This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear. Sometimes they bounce baby. This is an odd case of a movie very much still being a post-Oscar blank check for Danny Boyle, despite coming off of two relative disappointments, an underperformer and an outright flop. But this is a bit of a blank check, even though everyone involved in this movie knows that they were not the first choice.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not his blank check.
It's such an odd case.
It's Sorkin's blank check.
He got to do the movie
Sort of.
his way.
He did. He had plenty of ideas. He brought his own sensibility to it. But yeah, he and
Fassbender coming in knowing they're bridesmaids and knowing that the public knows that. That's the other unique thing.
Well, I'm sure you agree with me. I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
And I rarely think people care about inside baseball stuff like that. But I do think this movie came out and it was kind of like, this was actually going to be a big fucking movie star movie. Anyway, it's got Magneto in it. I don't know. Enjoy.
Look, Trance is just an odd duck in the middle of the
Trance?
two.
I have not seen Trance.
It's a weird one.
Olivia?
I don't.
Check it out.
I might even say required review.
Might even say must see.
I might even say we're giving it. We need a new must see title.
The blanky seal of approval. Yeah. No, I think you'll appreciate its chaotic nature.
Yes.
Okay.
If nothing else. And it's short.
It's short. It's great.
Is that the selling point? That it's short and chaotic?
McAvoy.
Well, now I am
Rosario Dawson.
Okay.
Vincent Cassell.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're all horny. They're all crazy. They're all doing twists.
An all-star cast and a distinct lack of pubic hair, which is a really good combination for a modern thriller.
And it's not the kind of thing you would think matters crucially to the plot, but in Trance, it does.
Almost nothing has mattered more to any plot. But anyway, yes. All of this to say, Trance, odd duck in the middle, right? But coming off of Slumdog Millionaire
He won Best Picture for Slumdog Millionaire,
for
which
a
is
fucking
huge hit.
international blockbuster.
Yeah, still.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone's like, Danny Boyle, he's going to be able to keep delivering these fucking Oscar triumphs. These accessible, broad, emotional Oscar triumphs. He does 2 movies in a row that on paper felt like they should have worked. And in both cases, they kind of got fucked by narratives outside of their control.
Yes. I mean, I think at the end of the day, everyone involved in 127 hours can be like, look, we got a Best Picture nomination.
Absolutely.
Sure.
It was a success.
There
It
was
a
just that
mild
moment
success.
where, as is often the case with blank check filmmakers, when a movie becomes such an unexpected blockbuster, people go, I guess this guy has the formula now. He's got the magic recipe. If he could turn Slumdog Millionaire into like a $400 million success, he'll make the fucking arm in a cave movie work.
Yeah.
This will
Sure.
be a hit.
I forgot that Slumdog Millionaire was like that big of a movie.
Humongous.
It
Huge.
is-
It was everywhere.
I mean, when Everything Everywhere won,
Yeah.
my editor asked me at the Atlantic,
Yeah.
where I work, what was the last film that was this big a hit? And I immediately knew the answer because we're doing this podcast. I was
Right.
like, Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
That's the last movie that was a genuine hit.
And Slumdog Millionaire made more than twice as much as Everything.
Yeah.
Everywhere, all at once
So
domestically,
crazy.
and like 3 times as much worldwide, 4 times as much.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, King's Speech also did quite well. Slumdog did better.
Yeah.
But no, Slumdog.
But no, but those were the last
Yeah.
2 that were like,
They're like big.
And
Yeah,
obviously
and
King's
also-
Speech was a very successful post-Oscar type.
but
thing,
this
you know.
is this thing we've been talking about. I mean, examining the oddness of Slumdog, a thing that feels like it couldn't totally happen on that scale anymore. That there are movies that become hits because of the Oscar campaign.
Yeah.
Like Everything
like
Everywhere
ride
all
the
at
tide
once.
of
Right.
the
That's
Oscar
the
campaign.
final
Yeah.
victory lap for a movie that was already a hit. And these were movies that like caught on. The Oscar buzz made them big. They continued to play big. They played big for months after winning. All this to say, this is a miniseries on the films of Danny Boyle. It is called Train Spod Casting.
Yeah. You literally called it something else in our last episode.
My brain's been a little fried.
2 episodes ago, actually.
Yes,
but yeah,
I called it Slumpod Million Cast, which was an
127
alternate name.
hours.
Yeah.
Does okay. Gets a Best Picture nom.
Yeah.
Trance, that comes out, and everyone's like, hey, I didn't see it. You didn't see it. Let's just forget about it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
look, it does help him that like
Everyone gets one of those, right?
Absolutely, and everyone loved the Olympic ceremony. And it's like, well, he was double.
Yeah.
He
Oh
was
my
doing
God.
double duty. He was
Yeah,
doing
whatever.
both at
Who
the
gives a
same
shit?
time. That was the Fox Searchlight deal. That was post Slumdog. Anything you want under $40 million, immediate green light. So he does 2 of those. One of them does okay. One of them does horrifically.
But it's like Trance didn't, because Trance wasn't expensive.
Right.
It couldn't even be what it wasn't a failure.
I don't
mean,
think it was
a
held
failure,
against him.
but it's not like a noxious bomb. It's more just
No.
a kind of like, let's just agree. We're just going to put that one in a box.
I don't think it sticks to him, but I also think Fox Searchlight is like, maybe not anything. Maybe you have to explain the movie to us
Sure.
before
Now,
we give you the money.
He has yet to work with them again.
Yeah.
He makes this for Universal. Of
Mhm.
course, this was a Sony project,
Of
as I'm sure
course.
we will discuss.
Mhm.
But of course, this was distributed by the good folks at the Spinning Globe of
Yes.
Universal.
Yes.
And then T2 Train Spotting is
Sony?
Sony as well.
Uh-huh.
Although obviously that's like film 4.
Yeah.
And then yesterday he went right back to the
Universal.
Spinning Globe.
Right. And he was almost always a Fox guy in one way or another up until this point. Which also maybe accounts for his slowdown of his career. Like Fox really
Slowdown millionaire,
seemed
more
to,
like.
well,
Hey.
Thank you.
open the doors wide for him. Today we're talking Steve Jobs.
Yep.
Our guest today, returning to the show for the 4th?
Maybe 5th.
Well, this is the question.
Wait a second.
Rachel getting
Okay.
married.
Rachel
For
getting
love
married.
a game.
Flight.
Flight.
Mikey and Nikki.
Fire!
Wow. Wow.
Da, da, da,
I actually- okay,
We
so
did
here's-
it, Joe.
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Hang my jersey up in the rafters because
you're out?
this is the only other movie I'd ever want to talk about.
Wow.
No,
You'll
that's
be
not true.
Wow.
But this is, I think,
Yeah.
despite being helmed by 2 non-Americans,
Mm.
one of the great American films.
Very
Yeah.
true.
This is like all I have ever wanted to talk about on this show.
Wow.
And now we're here and we're doing it.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And can I tell you
Mhm.
a funny story? Which is
Please.
that many
We
many
love funny
It's kind of a
stories
Great.
funny
here.
story.
it's kind of a funny story starring Zach Galifianakis.
Mm.
Anyone
Um,
else think they were teasing that they're going to do a Bowden Fleck miniseries next? David said kind of a funny story, and then they all paused. Does anyone else think it would fit in really well? It's only 8 episodes.
I like us jumping on the Doughboys bandwagon of outright mocking our listeners.
I'm trying to find the right
stupid
because Wags has the best stupid
Wags has
listener voice.
I don't like that they did that. Like this, yeah.
And then Scott on Podcast The Ride has started a really good one now. It's like, actually, I love the trees they put in the theme park. And I'm like, I gotta find
your voice.
Annoying guy voice. Anyway, sorry. Give us a funny story.
Okay, so many years ago, I was walking down the street in the East Village, and I was on my way to my friend's apartment, and he called me and he said, "Can you look into the window of Whitman's, this restaurant on 7th Street, and see who is in there? You'll see him. He's famous, but I don't know who he is."
Ooh.
I look in, and immediately I'm like, it's Danny Boyle, and he's eating a hamburger.
Wait a second.
Years after that, I called in to the burger hotline.
What?
And I said, I one time saw Danny Boyle eating a burger. And now, years after that,
You can finally get it on the air.
here I am. I think it got on the air
may
is
have
the
gotten
thing.
on the air.
But
Because
is this before we knew you?
Yes, before, when I was simply a fan.
You know what,
My
Olivia?
brother texted me and was like, did you call into, what was it called? The Burger Report?
The Burger Report.
Okay. My brother texted me.
Shout
I
out
never
to your
heard
brother.
it.
Great follow on your letterbox.
And he was like, did you call in? And I was like, yeah, I think a while ago. And he was like, well, I just heard it. Because I guess I wasn't sticking around to
So
the
we
end of
must
the
have played it.
episodes. I
Wait,
think you did.
Did we unknowingly play Olivia Craighead?
You did.
Oh my God.
Olivia, I regret to inform you, you are correct. This is your last episode.
No.
It's
no.
full circle.
It's full circle. That's kind of the thing.
How's
is
it get
that like,
fucking better than
But
this?
how
then
could you get better than this?
Make new friends, but
Keep the old one as over the others go.
Yeah. I don't know why I did that.
I think this is the
I have
first time
strep.
someone has gone from burger reporter to guest, and unknowingly, only finding out in the 5th appearance as it all ties in back
Incredible.
together.
And how did Danny look eating his
He
burger?
looked great. The
How-
burger at Whitman's is great.
Normal size noggin.
No. He looks like James and the Giant
He
Peach.
does.
Like,
He looks like little stop motion.
Whitman's was the place that did the Juicy Lucy, right?
they
Not
also
to-
do the peanut butter on the burger. It's one of the few
wild
places you
stuff.
can get peanut butter.
It's
on. It's still there. I think.
Midwestern. Yeah, no, I've been there.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah.
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 it's good shit.
Juicy Lucy, please.
David's getting over strep
I'm off to
throat.
direct Steve Jobs.
David is getting over strep throat.
I sure am.
And Olivia was saying he sounds more NPR today because there's a little bit of gravel.
But you were also saying kind of, Wolfman Jack.
Well, yeah, a
right?
little like late night
And
radio.
I said sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls.
David sounded full sweaty balls.
Yeah,
We should though. We'll replay.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll find it. The burger report at the
Okay,
end of
I
this
might like
episode.
sound totally different. Like I don't remember when I sent it in.
Oh my God. Hi, guys.
Yeah, literally, I might sound like that. I think I was in college. I think I
Wow.
was truly like a baby.
You were baby.
I was baby.
That is amazing. Steve Jobs is our film. I can't remember when we first admitted to each other that, not that this is some dark secret, but when we first agreed that we both loved the movie Steve Jobs.
Yeah, it's kind of something that's like spoken about in dark rooms almost.
Certainly in those early years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those
I
things-
think it's like sort of come around. to-
now.
it's like 10 degrees below like what Master and Commander is now.
Master Commander's entered some. That's like
That's like-
stadium tours.
But
now.
Right.
I think in 20 years, however long it's been since Master and Commander, I think
Jesus,
Steve
it has-
Jobs
it
will
has
have
been
a
20 years.
hive that
Since
is
Master
like,
Commander? Yeah, 2003.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you're right. I think in 2035, as the nice warm Atlantic Ocean is lapping in our faces
Yeah.
or whatever's going on.
You'll
by
still be
then.
writing for the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Ocean.
Oh boy, I got a new boss. Jesus. I do find that this film's esteem has only grown.
Mhm.
Now that's partly because when it came out, it was received kind of tepidly and was perceived as a disappointment.
Can I get this out of the way?
Yeah, you didn't like it.
Absolutely not. I
You
would
thought
even,
it was boring.
I thought it was stinky poo poo.
Oh
I
my
don't think I thought it was boring.
Did
I
you?
was
Okay. I remember you just kind of being like, boring.
no.
No.
That was not my.
No.
That was not my take. Fuck off. No, I was kind of. It was a Sorkin breaking point for me.
Oh, really?
It was a like I
Wow.
can't abide by this anymore.
Well,
This is all
He's
of
out
his
of
shit.
control.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, looking back at that now,
Well,
it's
yes. Look,
we
certainly
have to. Okay.
didn't know how good we had.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
In a lot of
This is
ways.
kind of like a great Sorkin piece to me, especially with the context of what happens after this.
I agree. And I think I also was perhaps like too many other people caught up on the like, fuck, but imagine the fucking version with Bale and Fincher, you know? Or like, imagine if Ridley Scott did this. Imagine if David's ex.
Can I say a version with Bale would not be as good as this one. A version with DiCaprio, I think, would be bad.
Probably.
I think DiCaprio would have.
It's one of those things
Yeah.
where you're kind of like, oh, look, you know, I'd pay to see what that
Sure,
looks
of
like
course.
as long as
Yeah.
it doesn't take my movie away.
Sure.
But I can't imagine that being a good idea.
No, I remember my big take being at the time that I wish Danny Boyle and Ridley Scott had swapped projects and Danny Boyle had done The Martian and Ridley Scott had done this.
That's crazy. Those are two amazing movies.
That was my take at the time.
It's a bad take.
And I liked The Martian.
Martian's good.
But the movie comes out in the first year of us doing this podcast. We disagreed on it over the years.
Yeah.
Your opinion of this film has only grown.
That's the thing.
I've
I
never
liked this
rewatched
film a lot,
Yes.
but I too had shame and
Yes.
in my heart.
Yes.
And I, you know, I think I was probably putting it more like a sort of an 8 out of 10 or whatever. Like
Uh-huh.
I thought it was good, but I was kind of in my head like I can't think that that's the best. The sort of failed
Sure.
Steve Jobs biopic. How embarrassing and middle brow
Uh-huh.
of me to think, you know, Danny Boyle. And, you know, you have the Fincher. Oh, well, what would he have done? Oh, it would have been so scary and everyone would have been mean. Oh,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very good. Very
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
Yes, that's what that movie needs.
Yes.
And then I watched it again.
Mhm.
I remember I took my then girlfriend, now my ex-girlfriend, aka my wife.
Condolences.
That's a John Mulaney joke.
Yeah.
And then he, of course, split up with his wife.
Yeah.
But that's not
Less funny part of the joke.
Yeah, well, you know. No, I remember I took Forky to see it,
Mhm.
and I walked out of that. You know. So I first saw it at the New York Film Festival, and I was like, oh yeah. And then
Yeah.
I took it to Forky, and she was like, that sucked. And I was like,
Yeah.
I think I liked it more.
That was my kind of opinion. And the
Interesting.
face you made of just like, I was exhausted
No,
by
thank
this
you.
thing. Right. This wore you down.
I watched it again with her last night. I was like,
Yeah.
remember you saw this with me in the theater? And she was like, no memory of that whatsoever. Do not remember that. You
Yeah.
are lying. And
Wow.
I'm like, no, we went to the Regal Court Street. We saw it. Watched it with her, sobbed through the whole movie because that's what it does to me now. And she
Sure.
was like, more positive on it maybe, but
Yeah.
like was also like shopping on her laptop for most of it.
8 years of doing this show. You've had
Ugh.
this growing relationship with it, and then we make friends. We have recurring guests on the show like Olivia,
Sure.
like Alex Ross Perry.
Yep.
There are people who are entering our orbits who are like, secretly, I love this too. I think it's a masterpiece. So I've let go of my opinion outside of I didn't like it at the time.
Sure.
In preparing to watch this.
Yeah.
And then watched it last night and was like, what was the moment where I started to turn on this watching it in theaters?
Uh-huh.
I remember going into it incredibly excited.
Sure.
And then my enthusiasm.
Because we were all pretty pro Sorkin because of Social
Absolutely.
Network
Yeah.
and Moneyball.
Moneyball.
Right.
You know, we were all kind of like, he's back. Now the newsroom was out there, and we were all kind of being like, wow.
The newsroom was hard. As a Sorkinista, I did watch every episode of the newsroom.
The thing about the newsroom is Sorkin himself is like,
He's
that show's a mess.
he's
I
like, I
fucked that up.
swung hard and
Yeah.
I missed,
Yeah.
Which is funny because
cool of him.
Jeff Daniels is like best role I ever had.
Yes.
And it's like, all right, Jeff.
Of course he thinks that. He's the center. He
I
gets to
can't
make
make monologue.
Right.
He gets to do so much.
But I think I'm watching it going, I'm
Where
enjoying
did it lose
this.
me? Sure.
What's the moment I start to turn on this thing?
Okay.
And the only moment where I really felt it started to push back on me was fucking 1,000 Songs in Your Pocket.
Oh, God, it's
And
so
that,
good.
that
You
was
don't
so
understand.
stuck in my craw from when I saw it the first time. And I was enjoying everything so thoroughly that I was like, you know what? This line's going to play differently from this time. Now this movie is working for me. It's going to hit. And I'm not saying I flipped over my laptop. I'm not saying it turned the movie negative for me, but I did bump on it.
Can I ask what about it is like sticking in your craw?
Yeah, why don't people like it?
Because I really,
Let's just jump to the fucking
I
Let's
actually
just do it.
cannot
You already
understand.
brought up at the beginning, which is why I think we need to say
I
this.
really
Yeah.
like, have watched this movie
Yes.
so many times.
And I
Olivia.
pretty much
And
like
every time
everything else about the
And
movie.
every time I watch it, though, we get to that scene,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, how could you not love
You're
this?
waiting for it. To,
I'm
like,
waiting.
whatever,
I'm waiting for it
yeah,
to click to me why
it to
people
annoy
are like,
you
"This
in
is
the
so
way it annoyed
stupid."
people. I think I will let Griffin talk, but I do think people just sort of felt like too obvious. We don't need him to say
Sure.
that. We don't need we know he's going to invent the iPod. He doesn't need to articulate that.
I think that's a part of it for me. I think the larger part of it for me, and perhaps this is a very, very pedantic complaint.
The iPod didn't really fit in pockets that well early on.
Well, you had to swap shirts with someone who had the pocket that was the right size. No, I think it is the fact that he looks at her, he looks at the Walkman, he sort of like snaps his finger and points at her, and then delivers it as what was then the final tagline we knew to sell the iPod. The iPod was 1,000 songs in your pocket,
Yeah, sure.
right?
Right.
I think if he went, you know what? I'm going to make something so you can get rid of that stupid Walkman.
Right.
I'm going to invent something small. I'll put 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Right.
It would bump for me less than the fact that he looks at her and goes, I'm going to put 1,000 songs in your pocket. And he just immediately first draft lands on the billboard.
But that's what he's.
He
That's
knows
like
the
his
number.
whole thing.
I
But,
know.
but okay, it's two things though.
Yeah.
One, of course, that is kind of his whole mystique. Right?
Yes.
But two, he can only relate to his daughter
That-
through
yeah.
his own fucking
I get
inventions.
that.
It's so incredible and tragic.
he only knows how to make promises.
The
to people.
only way he can reach her in this moment
Yes.
of absolute humanity, like she's so distraught, is he's like, what if I made a better fucking Walkman for you?
But I
and you're
like
just like,
that.
oh my
Because it's
God.
also
I
like-
am now sold on that.
Right.
I don't like him saying literally verbatim.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Touch
put
grass.
1,000.
Touch it.
I
Go
do.
fucking touch grass.
It sucks.
No, it doesn't.
iPods are
The
better.
other thing about that scene
Yeah.
This
is
is why I
that-
was worried about having strep for this recording.
Yes.
Yeah.
is that he tries to relate to her the other way.
Of course.
He says, I want to read one of your essays
Right.
right now,
Yes.
as if she has it
Yeah,
in
of
the
course.
car.
I'm glad that she doesn't
But
go
he's like
like,
trying
here's
to
one.
he's trying to
Right.
be a human for like 2 seconds and
Yes.
it doesn't work. And then the only way he can be like, I love you
Yes.
is to say this thing. And I understand that it's like too clean.
I like it dramatically.
The
I don't
whole
like the
movie
line.
Is an Aaron Sorkin script
Yeah,
of
that's
people
the thing is
reciting
that it's,
like,
like,
legal
so
briefs to
Sorkin-y.
each other.
I
It's
have-
insane.
I have accepted all of this now.
Okay.
I
We're
have.
starting this off with a crazy energy.
No, because look, when I
It
saw
was
it,
inevitable.
I just went and I knew what
Because
the
I'm so
structure.
passionate.
I knew what the structure of this movie was, right?
Yeah.
There had been so much shit with the Sony hack, the script bouncing around for so long.
But also it had just been talked about. The Sorkin
Right.
was so good at selling himself,
Right.
where he's like, yes, it's a big unwieldy autobiography, but
Right.
I've summed it into 3 scenes. It's brilliant. You know.
Well, also, there was this thing. We're going to get into all of this, right? But there was this whole thing of just like Steve Jobs dies very suddenly, dramatically. It makes a huge impact
Died of
culturally,
cancer.
and everyone goes, "Well, fuck, they gotta make the Steve Jobs movie, right?"
Well, it wasn't just that he died. The book came out right
Yes.
around the same time, and yeah.
And it's like, well, this is going to be the thing, and suddenly, like multiple,
Who
like,
will play Steve Jobs?
multiple projects are popping up, but the whole promise, everyone I think went, well, Aaron Sorkin should write a Steve Jobs. Like it was just the immediate
Yeah.
assumption from everyone of that's what would make sense. We all just love Social Network.
What are the phone calls that Sorkin gets
Yeah.
that he doesn't say yes to? Because I'm sure there are some. Because like
Sure.
that's the thing you always hear. It's the same with the fucking Chicago 7 movie. Was that
Right.
Spielberg was just like, you know about the Chicago 7? And Sorkin's like, not really, a little bit. He's like, you should make a movie
That's
about
Sorkin's thing with like all of his like real life stuff is that someone comes to him
it. Right.
and is
because
like,
Sorkin's just a weirdo.
yeah, someone like I think for the Social Network, the like book proposal was going around,
Right.
and someone was like, "You read this? Like, you know anything about Facebook?" And he was like, "No."
You
But-
never hear Sorkin being like, I was in my Russian history
Right.
phase. Like it's like I don't
No.
know what Aaron Sorkin does all day, but it's not like absorb things. Like people just sort of
No.
put stuff in front
Yes,
of him and
he
he
was
sort of like figures out the angle.
I basically didn't know what Facebook was, and the book didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
I
Right,
was
it was a
writing the
proposal.
movie
Right.
parallel to them writing the book. It was just the notion of this guy's in 2 lawsuits simultaneously.
right, yeah.
But
and
the-
he was like, well, that's my in,
That's
and then I have to
clever.
figure out what the fuck Facebook is.
But the other thing is that he's just like, you know what? He did it because he's trying to get over a girl, and everyone's like, well, I mean, sure, maybe there was some girl,
Absolutely.
and that's probably bullshit. And he's like, well, I'm doing it, and you're like, well, that was a great idea by you. Good job,
Yeah.
buddy.
And similarly, look, he's using the Steve Jobs movie. He's putting so much through the prism of him as a father and as a son, right?
There's 3 movies in a row that he writes that I call the Sorkin dad trilogy. Moneyball,
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
Molly's Game.
Yeah.
They're all so clearly about
It's
his
very
experience
him
as a
being
very flawed
like,
father.
yeah, being like as the father of a daughter, like as a kind of fucked up guy.
And also one of these guys who's basically like, I would maybe be dead if I hadn't had this kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Sort
this,
of the
right.
even though I know I'm a flawed dad.
For all my failings,
This is
this
my
is the
tether,
only thing
right.
that has even saved me to a degree.
And he relates
Yeah.
to these people.
Yes.
Billy Bean,
Mm.
Steve Jobs,
Mm.
Molly's dad. His name I don't know.
Kevin Costner.
He relates to them in ways that are crucial to the success of those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to their flaws.
Yeah, and anyway, everyone, the public is basically like assuming this movie will exist. Well,
That is true.
obviously, Fincher and Sorkin should just make the Steve Jobs movie.
Well, right. It was because they'd made a tech movie together as
Right.
well. It's like, yeah, sure.
Right, and a movie that everyone loved, that was a huge hit, that was like a big Oscar player, but ended up being an also-ran outside of Sorkin winning the one, major award for that movie. It wins
he didn't.
editing and score.
Won editing and score.
Yeah.
Sorkin didn't win, did he?
Sorkin won screenplay
Sorkin
for
won
that.
because he shouts out to his daughter. He's like,
Yeah, he
Roxy, go
does.
to bed.
It starts the daughter trilogy.
Yeah.
He gives the speech.
So King's
for the
Speech
daughter.
was King's Speech seen as
Adapted.
original? No, no.
King's
Social
Speech was
Network
original.
adapted.
You're right.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember the King's
Yes.
Speech guy winning.
Yes.
Because he was a guy who'd had a stutter, and he gave this like whole like that's why this mattered to
Wasn't
me
he
so
also
much.
like 80 and it
Yeah,
was
he was
his
like a
first
really old
screenplay?
guy. He was like,
Right.
oh, I don't remember what he
It's
was.
never too late.
Right, he did win. Okay, so right,
Yeah.
yeah. It was the I remember it was the score win for Social Network that was the most surprising because
Yes.
that felt like, well, if you fucking vibed with that,
Right.
Right.
why are you assholes not giving it Best Picture? Like you get it.
Yeah.
You like the score. The score's the weirdest part.
Yeah.
What a great movie that is.
Just felt like an it's perfect.
Yeah.
It just felt like an
Do
obvious
you like
thing.
Social Network?
I love the Social Network so much so that when I was a teenager, I owned it on DVD, would watch it on the family computer all the way through. Started again with the commentary
course,
so I could
great
listen to
commentary.
Fincher and Sorkin do their thing. I was on like Social Network Tumblr, which was a kind of vibrant community in the day. Like I am all in.
Tumblr
on
about
Social Network.
Facebook.
Yeah, Tumblr about Facebook, but Tumblr specifically about Mark and Eduardo
Oh,
and like
Eduardo.
Andrew and Jesse because they had kind of a lot of chemistry during their press tour. So yeah, I love that movie.
I think Andrew Garfield could have chemistry with a paper bag.
That's-
He really
kind of
could.
seems like his vibe. Yeah.
yeah.
And as much as I love that movie and I love David Fincher movies, I think he would have made a completely different.
Yeah.
Movie.
Look, I will see any David Fincher movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would see David Fincher, Steve Jobs, but
One
I
could
don't
say
think it
that.
would be the
Sure.
movie I love.
We love the Finch.
We
man.
do love the Finch, man.
Yeah.
We're just doing Doughboys.
We're
bits
just
at
doing
the top
Doughboys
of our
bits.
podcast.
Hold them like Andre.
Yep. But as you say, okay, the public is like Sorkin and Fincher get together.
We have the movie in our mind's eye.
Now, where's Bale? Where's Bale?
Bale had just won the Oscar.
He's Batman, I suppose, as well.
The Batman run has ended,
Batman.
and he's won an Academy Award.
right. So he's exited
Yes.
the what don't you fucking understand period of his life.
Yes.
And has entered the I'm getting nominated for Oscars left and right.
Right.
I'm now seen as kind of like an A-tier
Yes.
actor.
Right. Respectable prestige actor. It seemed like he doesn't want to go back to franchise shit. He's going to do serious movies.
In fact, let me start on the dossier.
And there's a bit of resemblance between him and Steve Jobs.
Yeah, so
A bit.
the whole thing is like Kutcher kind of looks like young Steve Jobs, which of course
Right.
is why and we can touch
Yeah,
on Kutcher.
We can touch on it.
I had the ambition of watching the Kutcher movie in
Okay.
preparation for this, and I
I did too. I watched the trailer,
I did the
which
same
does
thing.
feature a Macklemore needle drop and about
Yes.
3 different shots of Kutcher letting out like a primal scream.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get it.
But that is
Yeah.
and I have seen it, but I haven't seen like that is a much more straightforward,
Yeah.
like let's bottle his whole life up, right? Like
Right.
we'll
That is the-
greatest hits.
I think I was listening to Sorkin talk about something, and he said that is the exact movie he didn't want to make.
Right.
The movie that like starts with a little boy at the electronics store.
It kind
And,
of
like-
cradle to grave.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And
Yeah.
he was like, why would I want to make that movie?
But also, it's like he dies. People start circulating the photos of young Steve Jobs, and people are like, "Oh, he looks like Ashton Kutcher," and you're like, "This one time period,
This
Yeah.
one time period with this one haircut. It
Right.
really is all it is.
right?
The thing with Bale, the thing with anyone is like, I don't know, just cut their hair, put him in a turtleneck. They kind of
Sure.
put some glasses on him. They kind of
Sure.
start to look like Steve Jobs. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
he didn't have like a tattoo on his face or something. He's like a somewhat generic looking guy.
right. Bale's
Yeah.
got a pretty,
Yeah.
straightforward Anglo-Saxon face. Yeah,
So September 28th, 2001,
Mhm.
2001,
okay,
2011.
okay,
So a week before Steve Jobs dies.
okay.
Sony CEO Michael Linton and producer Mark Gordon are given the chance to read Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs, which is about to come out in a month.
What month did you say this was?
September 2011.
Okay, so this is the same year that Social Network loses the Oscars.
That's true. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They read this book. Has anyone in the room read Walter Isaacson's Steve Jobs?
No. David raises
How is
his
it?
hand.
It's great. It's a 650-page books, but they sit down and they read it in his agency.
Mhm.
They call Amy Pascal, and she buys the rights. $1 million up front, $2 million more if the project gets made. So
Okay.
a hefty commitment from Sony Pictures.
Now, basically, everyone had known that Jobs' health had been up and down for years because you would see at the keynotes he'd
looked
come out,
skinny.
Gaunt a
right, and then
little
they'd be
bit.
like, he's on the mend, and then he'd show up for the next one, and he'd be skeletal and whatever.
Yes.
That book was very much him sort of trying to like get his legacy put on record while he still had
Yes.
the time.
He gave Isaacson an incredible amount of access,
Right.
essentially, knowing that he was possibly going
So
to die.
even reading that book a month before he dies, they're basically seeing like, oh, this guy's about to go. This is going to be the time to strike and do the definitive.
Obviously,
thing.
it's
Yeah.
not like the book was always going to come out October,
Sure.
but like, so it was accidental that it came out right after he died. But
Right. I
he
think
was certainly
things got worse faster than people thought.
well, it was
Yeah.
pancreatic cancer, and
Yeah.
he didn't seek normal treatment for it.
Yeah.
It was actually a special kind of cancer. Like, it was treatable. It doesn't matter. You can read
Sure.
that in the book.
Yes.
So then they decide, let's bring in a bunch of really chill, normal people: Scott Rudin and Aaron Sorkin.
Mhm.
And Rudin and Sorkin are like long time.
They worked.
Pals.
Obviously, Rudin produces The Social Network.
Yeah.
And then
in
they
between
continue-
screaming at
yeah.
interns and throwing ashtrays
Was
or
that
whatever
the
he did.
first one though? Is that the first
I feel like
Rudin
they.
Sorkin thing?
Well, it certainly wasn't the last because
Yeah.
Rude
Rudin
Sorks.
also did To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway.
mean,
He sure did.
This is the insane thing. Is the reason why To Kill a Mockingbird closed,
Yeah.
or rather didn't reopen, after being the most successful straight play in the history of Broadway,
It was very successful.
is because basically Sorkin was like, you cannot be making money off the show.
Right.
You need
Yeah.
to take your name off of it.
And he was like, "Fuck, you can't fire me. I quit." And I'm
And
taking
then
the
there
show
goes
down
all the
with
money.
me.
Yeah.
Held the show hostage,
Yeah.
and Sorkin was like, "I refuse to reopen it if Rudin's attached."
Yeah, well, Scott Rudin's an asshole.
Yeah.
He can fucking come at me if he wants to argue that point.
Yeah, just clear all the phones out of the room before he does.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Definitely no heavy ashtrays.
No,
Right. Or was that Weinstein? Someone threw ashtrays.
I
One
think
of those
Weinstein was
guys.
after. I don't know. They're all
Um,
bad people. Everyone's bad.
Sorkin, Olivia, as you say, reads the book, but is like, I don't want to do a cradle to grave thing, right?
Mhm.
I want to do something else. He has this sort of play-like construct in his head, the 3 acts.
Mhm. It's
5
3 product launches. It's 3 backstage. Steve Jobs needs to talk to everyone he's ever known his entire life before he announces a new product.
Yes, it's the walk hard
Yeah.
approach. $5 million is what he collects for this screenplay. He actually reduced that salary later to try and get the movie made.
Wow.
Which,
Okay.
you know,
Yep.
but they're paying him a handsome fee for a screenwriter.
Yeah, basically, I mean, it's the moment where like everyone wants him to do
Right.
it. He knows
He
he,
had
can
just won an Oscar.
name his
like,
price.
Yeah.
And once again, he's like, I didn't really know anything about Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I knew the bullet points of that guy's life like everybody else. Like the book is new to me.
What's
Sure.
funny also about him is that at the after the movie is made, he's like, I still don't really get it. He's like, I don't know. He's always like rectangles with rounded corners.
Right.
Okay,
Sure.
sure. But he had to like figure out why this man was a god.
Yeah.
Which is what's so amazing about the movie. But yes, I think what he's relating to in this book, though, what a flawed person,
Mhm.
bundle of contradictions. Why does he behave in ways that don't make sense, but he wants everything he makes to be like perfect and simple and, make
Right.
total sense.
Right. And hyperfixates on how could this guy deny his parentage of this girl for this
It
long?
is the craziest thing about Steve Jobs.
A thing that
right?
feels
It's undeniable.
unfathomable to me, a father of a daughter. Right.
Sure.
It becomes like, I need to interrogate
As father
this.
of
Yeah.
daughter.
As father of
But
daughter.
it is the crazy. It's just you're just like, what are you like? He's like the richest man alive. How could
Right.
he possibly? But
It's also it's wild how much it was sort of discussed out in the open. It wasn't one of these things where it's like, oh, illicit Schwarzenegger love child now being acknowledged for the first time at
Right,
the age of
right.
20. It's like
no.
the girl's 2, 3, 4, 5. It's being written about. This is part of his narrative the entire time of the rise.
And everyone except for him is like, that is your daughter.
Right.
It's obvious. We all see it.
Yeah.
Right.
We all know Chris Ann.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's maybe the most devastating part of this movie is just
It's the heart of the movie.
people
Yeah.
greeting Chris Ann.
Oh, when
Yeah,
Andy is like, hi.
Yeah.
And
And he's like, we're friends separate from you.
Right.
You know. Has anyone read Lisa Brennan Jobs' book, Small Fry? I'm
No.
sure no one
No.
has.
No.
I highly recommend it. It's a
Okay.
great book.
Mhm.
And it's the book she wrote about her life and gives lots more context on Steve Jobs for Jobs heads like me.
When was that written?
Maybe, when did that get published? Like maybe 2017?
Okay. So after this.
2018.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But Sorkin does meet with Lisa and talks with her, which Walter Isaccson didn't even get to do. So, who wrote the biography?
Sure.
So, you know, he clearly identifies on like, this is going to be the center of my movie, right? Like this, he calls her the hero of the movie.
She is.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't
yeah.
work without that at all, or else it's just
100%.
wandering around.
And there, I mean, I assume the Kutcher movie deals with it vaguely.
The trailer doesn't. That's all I can tell you for sure.
But like,
Trailer doesn't touch it.
memory. But like,
I
there's
wanna
so
see
many
if the
biographies
characters even
that
credited.
would hand wave that
Yes.
Right.
simply because it's too complicated.
And
Where
it's
they're
just
like, well, we have to explain. He's got to make an iPad now.
a
or,
classic
you know,
Hollywood
like-
makes them too unsympathetic.
yeah, right.
Right. That's unforgivable behavior.
He talks to John Scully, character Jeff
Jeff
Daniels
Daniels.
plays.
Yeah.
Who Sorkin says has practically been in hiding since he got fired from Apple, but he talked to me.
Mhm.
He talks to Joanna Hoffman, the character that Kate Winslet plays. He talks to Steve Wozniak, of course, who is this lovely bear of a man, big, lovely man. But Sorkin says, like, you do get the sense from him, like he was still, you know, he nursed some anger, like,
Mhm.
you know, over going all the way
Understandably,
back,
yeah.
you know.
Lisa and Chrisanne are characters in that movie. I don't know
Yeah,
to what
I
degree.
think, you know, it has to. At
you have to
least.
touch on it.
Yeah.
But I think they are much less because there
Yes.
has to be much more of him looking at a
There's probably
you
stuff
know,
about like
pod, and then
Pixar
he's
in
like,
that movie.
"I'm
Yeah.
Like,
pod." Yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
got everything in it, right?
Yeah.
You know, what if the phone
Tomato computer? Try Apple. I just look, it's not fair, and I don't even know if it's accurate, but it is a scathing tweet that has never left my mind. When that movie was coming out, I just remember someone tweeting, Ashton Kutcher is Steve Jobs, so an idiot playing a genius sounds good.
I mean, and that was like at the height of Ashton Kutcher's bozo phase.
Yes.
When he was like the first
was-
celebrity on Twitter. Remember
yeah,
that?
that was his whole thing, and now he's just like a venture capitalist,
Right.
Like
who
a
is
full-on
also in
venture
like
capital. Who's like married to Mila Kunis.
married to Mila Kunis in that weird Reese Witherspoon rom com.
Oh God, yeah, that kind of came and went, didn't it?
Yeah.
There's a bizarre Rolling Stone profile on Ashton Kutcher recently that talks about like, it's been a while since you thought about Ashton Kutcher, huh? The screens, we've been missing him actively. And I'm like,
It's like, no.
he didn't make a movie in 3 years. There was a pandemic. I haven't seen some of my best friends in 3 years. It's not
I
like,
just love
it's
the
also
idea that Hollywood's like, what is it? What's the spark we're
but they
missing?
were treating it like he was Gene Hackman, and they were like, everyone's been waiting for him to return, and he's
It used
returning.
to be, yeah, he's returning
Well, they
with
said
a shitty Netflix movie. Right,
and
yeah.
returning, he's returning in a big way, appearing in one episode of that '90s show and a Netflix movie that's going to be huge and definitely remembered for more than 4 hours.
He was also on that Netflix show. He had his
The
own,
Ranch.
the Ranch.
The
That
Ranch.
was like
They-
years.
They were like, it's been so long. He did fucking 100 episodes of The Ranch. A show that
Nobody's watched
survived
The Ranch.
Danny Masterson getting canceled. They recast
what'd
with
he
Dak
do?
Shepard, did another 45 episodes.
They replaced him with Dak
They just
Shepard.
plopped Shepard in there.
Yeah, the
God.
cast of that show.
How did that guy even walk through the doors of the ranch? His arms are so swole.
Do you know who the parents are on that show?
I don't.
Do neither of you
No.
know who the parent?
I
think
I
the
know
par-
nothing about the Ranch.
Okay.
I refuse to engage with
So the ranch started, obviously, Kutcher Masterson became Kutcher and Dak Shepard. Who are the two elder statesmen on that show? In every fucking episode, 100
I
episodes of The
don't
Ranch?
know.
Multicam sitcom? Sam Elliott? Deborah Winger.
Deborah Winger.
Deborah
Wow.
Winger.
Winger.
Wow.
Good
She
for her for getting a check.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Getting that Netflix money. Get it while you can.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Deborah? I can't do Sam Elliott right now,
Sure.
even with my voice like this. Sorkin also reveals he had talked to Steve Jobs 3 times in his life. 1, Steve Jobs called him to say he liked a West Wing episode.
Nice.
2,
Do you know which one?
he did not reveal.
Mm.
I'd love to know. Maybe one day. I have interviewed Aaron Sorkin, but I forgot to ask him which episode of The West Wing Steve Jobs liked.
I bet it's the one where Josh starts chatting with people.
Classic episode.
Lemon Lyman.
2, he asked him to come to Pixar. He wanted Aaron Sorkin to write a Pixar script.
Oh yes, I do know that.
And
What,
3,
like for an animated movie,
I
or
mean, one would hope.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd watch it. Sorkin, come on.
Yeah.
children shouldn't have to deal
Yeah,
with
that's true.
that.
And 3, he was like, I'm writing a commencement speech. Can you brush up? I mean, Steve Jobs is probably just at that scale
I know.
of celebrity at that
Crazy.
point where he's
Can
like,
you
I'll just
do
call the most
punch up?
famous writers.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, he's very satisfied with the script. He delivers the script. This was the whole thing with this movie.
Yeah.
Was that everyone was kind of like, there's this great script.
Right.
You know, like once the script was done, it was just kind of like, it's got to be made.
And he got out of his system pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like it was not a tortured birth, and people were like, "This thing's good. It's a bold approach, but it reads." And then
trouble hits,
Right.
quote unquote, in myriad forms.
well, the obvious thought is Fincher should be the number one choice to direct this movie. Fincher, as is his way, every time he comes onto a project, basically reads the script and goes, "There is no way I could make this movie for a penny less than $80 million."
80 is cheap for him.
whatever. Well,
Right,
yeah, no, but
right.
that's the point, right? Like even Social Network, they were like, "This is a movie we have budgeted at 20," and he's like, "I can do it for 65." And they're like 65, and he's like, "Well, because your cobblestones cost this much at Harvard, I would shoot this in this way." To his credit, he's one of these guys where like he apparently can go through like word by word of the script and explain every single cost to you. And he's like, "I know how it works. I'm not going to waste any money. I save money in certain ways, but I refuse to have things be shitty. I refuse to make compromises. This is how much it will cost to the penny." So he goes to them and is like, "Here's this," right? And this is coming at a moment where there's a bit of a belt tightening on auteurs in Hollywood in general. Fincher, who was coming off of a couple hits after a lifetime of having movies that like...
You mean Button and Social, because he's made another movie since then
Well,
that has
this is the thing.
disappointed. Yes.
Right. So then everyone's like, well, and then fucking Dragon Tattoo is going to be massive, and it's going to be a franchise.
And it did okay.
It did okay.
Cost a lot of money. It is, of
And-
course, incredible.
It has one of the best trailers.
Yes.
Of all
It also has
time.
one of the best endings of all time.
But one of those
at
things...
at the moment, it was perceived as a
Yeah.
disappointment.
Most filmmakers probably would have agreed to make that movie for $50 million, you know, or something 60. And he was like, there is no way to make this for less than 110 or whatever.
Well, let me give you some details. Now, this
Yes.
film's eventual budget was $30 million.
Steve Jobs. I'm talking Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, sure, Dragon.
I'm saying
Oh,
Dragon
okay.
Tattoo
Yeah, yeah.
was then seen as less successful because it had a
It was
Fincher-sized
expensive.
budget
Right.
relative to expectations. So now they're like, maybe we don't let Fincher do everything.
Well,
he
there's some
wants.
other stuff, though.
Yeah.
Two,
Are you gonna-
one.
There's Cleopatra.
There's
Okay.
exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so Fincher and Amy Pascal hate each other
Yes.
because of all the money that's being spent on these Sony movies. But
But they work.
Pascal wants him working on Angelina Jolie's Cleopatra.
Mhm.
Stop trying to make Cleopatra movies.
It's wild
Stop
that
it.
we're here 10 years later and we're still on this thing.
Anytime an actress shows up who is hot and wears bronzer,
Yeah.
like all studio heads can think of is like, should they be Cleopatra? It's like, stop it.
But
This
the
has never worked.
The Gal Gadot
Yes.
Cleopatra movie is ostensibly this same project. I
It's,
think.
it's the never
They've-
ending
They've been
project.
trying
15
to
of
make it
development.
for
Stop
ever.
Yes.
trying to make it.
Right. And
That's
then
my
there's
advice.
there's that incredible moment where James Cameron's like, maybe I'll make it. And it very clearly was him getting Fox to
Give him more money.
for the Avatar sequels. He's like, well, maybe I won't get around to Avatar for 25 years if I make Cleopatra first.
Fincher made $5 million on the Social Network. Now, the reason we have all these numbers in greater detail is
Yes.
because of the Sony heads.
Thank you, Kim Jong.
Thank you, North Korea.
Yes.
The People's Republic.
Yes.
Fincher asked for $10 million for Steve Jobs.
Mhm.
Now, he actually only asked for a $45 million budget for this movie.
Okay.
Reasonable. Of course, it is basically set just in
In 3
physical
places,
spaces that you just have to rent.
But
But
that's-
still.
That's about as strapped down as he gets.
But he's still asking for quite a lot of money for himself.
Mhm.
And the Sony execs are like, that's too much money. Rudin, in an email, says, you don't think $40 million to shoot 3 scenes is enough? Do you want every control given to him, including the entire marketing campaign? This is the director who refused to put the girl with the dragon tattoo in the ads for the girl with the dragon tattoo.
I don't quite get that.
I don't get that either. She's in the ads.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Such a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
He if you go and read those emails, he is the biggest asshole
He's the
in the
worst.
world.
He's
Yeah.
He
really
is
the worst.
Nothing but like so rude to everyone all the
Yes.
time that Amy Pascal eventually has to send my favorite email that's ever been sent. Why are you punishing me? Just that one line said to Scott Rudin, why are the letter U punishing me, sent from my Xperia Z2. Sent from my Sony Xperia Z2.
Hey, brand loyal. The thing with Rudin, of course, is he's produced so many great films.
Yes.
Like, I mean, his name is on so many
He's
great
an
films.
EGOT winner.
And because he would fucking attach himself like a
This was the
goddamn
thing.
barnacle
Yeah.
to these really
Yes.
great artists, more
Yes.
so than Harvey. Because Harvey Weinstein obviously was he was part of good movies.
Yeah.
But he also made a lot of like middlebrow
Yes.
fucking trash and
But
like
he was
puffed it up.
He was
you
a
know.
studio head.
Yes.
The difference was
Yes,
Rudin would
exactly.
wait for someone to make the breakthrough movie.
The Coen brothers, whoever.
Right.
And then would
Wes
snatch him up.
Anderson. And then would just be like, you're mine.
And of course his reputation was that he would fight tooth and nail for them, you know, blah 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 blah.
And
you know.
this is the
you don't know
key.
how many interns he'll scream at for you. You
Right,
know?
but like not to exonerate people who had relationships with him, but it was kind of that thing of like, if you're like a sensitive, exacting artist type who doesn't know how to navigate through this awful system of bureaucracy, just close your eyes, look the other direction, focus on your little script. Scott Rudin will figure out everything for you.
Right.
He will fight every fight.
he
and
will
not
motherfuck
lose.
everyone.
Right.
That you cannot.
Right.
Yes.
And that was basically his thing, is like a lot of these kind of like timid auteur guys would just be like, Rudin, just whatever it takes. Whatever
So-
it takes.
Was Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but Amy Pascal like came up through the Rudin
Yes.
system too.
Yes.
God,
And now
the Rudin
they-
system. That
and
sounds
then-
like something that make Marines do.
It should be.
Yeah.
Like the fact that she's a woman who got out alive and
Yes.
became a major producer is kind of insane.
Let's also just say this time period, Amy Pascal feels like, we're talking late 2000s, early 2010s. Amy Pascal feels like the last old school studio head, where there is a balance between like commercial projects, franchise projects, but also being like,
Already Oscar stuff.
we
Like,
have to
yeah.
make real movies.
at big scale.
We put
Right.
real budgets behind real directors. And not only that, she's like nurturing new stars. There's that point where it's like Emma Stone, Andrew Garfield, Jesse Eisenberg. There's like a bunch of young people who are not obvious
Yeah.
stars
she
that
puts
she's
them in
like,
stuff.
we're putting you in multiple projects. We're thinking
But
long
you're right,
term with
because
you.
it would be like, you know, whatever. The other studios would be like, well, we have our Oscar branch,
Right.
You know, but like, well, we don't make those movies. Like the little guys make those movies.
Amy Pascal is still like, we could do both.
Pascal.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Amy Pastel.
She's
Amy
cool.
Pascal.
I like her.
Right.
She's cool. I mean,
But she's
look,
like, Social Network should also be able to play at malls.
Yeah.
Like, we can make these movies that split the difference.
she wrote some embarrassing shit in those emails,
course.
Of
and got
course.
dragged for them.
Yes.
But she's a very interesting figure. But Fincher exited the project. Okay.
Yes.
Sorkin wanted him. He begged for him.
Right.
But
His first choice was Bale, and the studio, I think, wanted DiCaprio more, but it was sort
well,
of
they're always going to want
Right.
DiCaprio the most or whatever.
but neither guy wanted to do it. Bale was sort of more seriously considered, and then
Yeah.
was like, I can't figure this guy out.
sure.
Yeah, he kind of dropped. But do you have the email where I think Amy Pascal found out about this via like a Hollywood Reporter headline that was like David Fincher. It was like a news roundup that was like David Fincher to leave Steve Jobs, Adam Driver cast as villain in Star Wars, and Amy Pascal sends him that
Yes.
headline and is like, "What the fuck is going on?" And David Fincher replies, "Yeah, that's crazy. Adam Driver's really wrong for that role."
He
Yes.
says, Adam Driver is a terrible idea. I'm with you. And,
Funny.
And Amy
That's
Pascal
so funny.
replies in all caps, I meant the one about us butting heads and you not directing jobs.
He is so funny, and I feel like
He's
people don't
very,
really understand.
He's very
when
mordant in
Yeah,
his
exactly.
emails. Very,
Yeah.
yes, very dry.
But also, if you are David Fincher, like, do you want to do this again?
No.
The challenge of just like, is
Yeah.
this, you now have to compete with yourself. Even if this is a fairly different project from Social Network, you're doing another difficult tech billionaire genius movie with Aaron
No,
Sorkin dialogue.
He wisely does
Everyone's
Gone Girl.
gonna just
does
judge
he
you.
does he go to Mindhunter after this? Is
No,
that
it's Gone
kind of-
Girl. And then
Oh, I
Mindhunters.
forgot about my favorite movie, Gone Girl.
Right.
You forgot about
Fuck.
another one of the great films.
Yeah.
Right. He goes to Fox and is like, I guess my thing is take the best-selling airport
Well,
paperback.
When
and,
I
yeah.
not to toot my own, when I not to toot my own
Dude,
dick.
toot your own dick,
Ew.
David.
No, but I mean, just like when I interviewed him, I said, like, come on, you were making these original movies. He's like,
Yeah.
every time I had to get a bestseller.
Yeah.
And that would be the way I could get it over the line.
Which it's so weird that it just stops with Gone Girl.
I know.
And
He
that
should've
one's-
just got another bestseller.
Yeah.
But he gave us Mank. And for
Mank.
that, I salute him.
And then he
And
has,
for that, I
he
say,
has
thank you very much.
The Killer,
He sure does.
starring Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
Yes, based on an idea by Wendy Williams.
The Wendy Williams?
It's not based. But have you never seen Wendy Williams talking about The Killer?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sure.
remember.
The Killer.
Yeah.
So Fincher exits. Okay, so what's Danny Boyle up to? Well, he made a little thing called Trance. He directed a pilot for the British TV show Babylon, which is fairly popular.
Yes.
So, he's sort of messing around in Britain. I think he had some good times with that. Then he's thinking about a
Olympic
this
ceremony,
sounds like a
obviously.
Ben.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the Trans episode. This sounds like a Ben-friendly project. It's called Smash and Grab: The Story of the Pink Panthers, an adaptation of a diamond thief documentary.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
British
Absolutely.
diamond thieves called
Diamond
the Pink
Thieves. That's cool.
Panthers?
Yeah.
Also rumors that Warner Brothers wanted him for American Sniper. Eventually
Weird.
that goes,
Oh,
yeah.
whoa.
I'm not sure what that looks like.
Bizarre. Yeah. But that
Um,
speaks to him just being in this like Oscar-friendly director pot
Yeah.
where people aren't even thinking about appropriateness. They're just like, well, this guy's done a bunch of different genres and he's won an Oscar. I guess any big prestige project you could maybe throw him into consideration for.
I also think that's something specific about Boyle, in almost kind of like an Ang Lee kind of way, is that you can give him whatever.
It's true.
Yeah.
And he
He's-
can make a good movie. Like
He's
his
adaptive.
American Sniper would be weird,
Weird.
but it would probably be good.
Yeah, I'd give
It would
a
probably
whirl.
be it would probably be less insane than the American Sniper
I mean,
we have.
They
One of the
did
weirdest.
they used his baby from Trainspotting. That was the one thing
They did. With zero upkeep.
right.
It had rotted like that fucking
Someone was
Ninja
like,
Turtles
"Ah."
costume. Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
It's like, looks fine. Put it in his hands.
Bounce the head.
God, that's one of the funniest things that has ever
Holding a
happened.
Baby.
Yeah.
Like, what if we could hear Clint directing? Like, if we could just hear that audio. Rocket, good. Put it down. I don't know. Anyway,
What I would like to hear is Bradley Cooper being like, Clint, I would love one more take. I'm still trying to sync up my
I
performance.
didn't even know
I
how much it
mean,
was going to weigh.
Right.
I would love to just know the conversation where Clint was like, "We're using a fake baby." Like
Right.
Bradley seems like the kind of guy who'd be like,
Oh, God.
"Please give me a
I-
living baby."
I have heard the
I just looked on the monitor. It looks fine. We're going.
I believe it was a thing where the baby was running late.
Yes,
I think
there was-
the
it was-
true
Oh, the
answer.
baby,
And
like,
Clint
missed the
had his
train?
eye on this turkey sandwich over at Craft Services. He really wanted it.
I truly think it was a thing where the baby was running
Oh, the
late or
baby
the
got
baby
stuck
was
in
sick.
traffic.
They had booked a baby, and it was one of these
The
things where, like,
101.
right,
I get
like
you.
an AD came up to him and was like, "Clint, we have eyes on another baby. It would take 2 hours to get here," and he's
And
like,
Clint-
"Give me the doll." Right, it was that. It was truly like, I have no interest in waiting.
Well,
Give me the Boyle doll. All right.
You just have to imagine Bradley Cooper was like, "If you give me 6 takes, I can figure this out.
and Clint was like, "That's
If
not
you give
how
me
it
6
works."
takes, I will learn the angles. I will learn how to
Clint
puppeteer
probably
this."
maybe even did, but he just didn't even roll film.
No,
He'd
right.
already walked away.
He was eating the turkey.
He was eating that turkey sub. Okay. There's a novel called Ingenious Pain
Okay.
that Danny Boyle's also thinking about. The story of a mid-18th century man who can feel neither pain nor pleasure.
That's a real Danny Boyle sounding project.
Danny Boyle
Yeah.
had taken this book to Ewan McGregor as the first
Wow.
olive branch in
Wow.
the healing of their relationship, which
Wow.
will soon be further healed
Yeah.
with his next project. So,
Okay.
so they're sort of thinking about that, but they
Mhm.
could never figure it out. He also wanted to make a David Bowie movie. And he had worked on a script on that with
Mhm.
Frank Cottrell Boyce, who wrote Millions.
Sure.
But they couldn't get the music rights, and they kind of gave up on it.
That-
I would love to see a
That
Danny
movie
Boyle
would be
Bowie
cool.
Yeah.
But if you can't get the music rights,
Well,
there's
obviously.
no
Well, there
point.
was the weird Mark Maron, Johnny Flynn, David Bowie movie that came out a couple years ago where they also couldn't get the music
Which
rights.
is like everyone just sort of agreed never to speak.
Right,
of that
change
one,
the
right?
character names.
Yes.
It was just like, well, then we're not acknowledging this.
Right. I mean, just go watch Velvet Goldmine if you
Right.
want the vibe. Like,
Right.
you know. Anyway, then the script ends up at his door. Now, Rudin had worked with Boyle on the stage play Frankenstein,
Oh,
Big
interesting.
hit.
Okay.
which was a big
Yeah.
hit. So he does know him. That's the
Mm.
connection.
hmm
And he reads this script and is very impressed with it.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly. And here's Boyle. Rudin probably thought, oh, he won't want to step into Fincher's shoes, but I read it and that was it. I said, I'm in. And he said, are you serious? I could hear it in his voice, him thinking it can't be this easy, can it? And I was like, I'm as serious as I can get.
Wow. A very sensitive read from a strep throat David Sims. No, I think there are few directors at that level who would have such a severe lack of ego. It really
Yeah.
speaks to Boyle not
I
really
agree.
caring
I
about
think a
the
lot of-
industry game at all.
My guess is right. They threw it at a lot of A-listers and they were like, Fincher turned it down. I don't want to do it. Yeah.
Right.
That seems to be Boyle's whole thing
Yeah.
too,
Right, it's
is
like-
being kind of like, I don't live in LA. Like I'm kind of
Yeah.
removed from the bullshit. Like I am basically Irish, have this like workman like thing where I'll just whatever. Like there's no ego involved.
But also, if you're basically at a point where over the course of like 5 years, these types of projects at
Right.
studios have gone from like $60 million budgets to $30 million budgets, and the thing they've been fighting is how to keep this thing down when you're already paying so much for Sorkin, for the rights, yada,
Right.
yada, yada. Boyle is a guy who you know is always going to be able to make a movie for less money than anyone else would. Like, he's able to, at a very high level, somehow get maximum value out of whatever dollar you give him.
Now, this film is 2 hours long.
Yes.
The script is 185 pages.
Mhm.
In classic Aaron Sorkin style, it essentially has instructions being like, read fast.
Yeah.
Read fast.
You gotta
to-
talk
to
fast.
Shrink
Yeah.
time.
The other thing I'll say, like I read the Social Network script when that was going around, like every other dumb 20-something male white actor who was trying to get any part in that thing.
Sure.
The thing about his scripts being long, aside from the fact that you're being told to perform fast, is also with Sorkin, you like look at a page of dialogue and a lot of it is sentence fragments.
Right.
So it like takes a line, but it's like, well, come on. You know, and I'm telling you, no, I know what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, well, so it just
Does
'Cause
he do it
yes,
like
he has the
bum bum
exact
bum, or does he put them next to each other?
My memory is that it's more bum 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 straight line down rather
Interesting.
than the sort of parallel
Yeah.
dialogue lateral kind of thing.
That
Yeah.
is so interesting. I think that's also kind of a theatery thing
Yes.
where like he is something you cannot forget about Aaron Sorkin is that he wanted to be an actor until he was like 20,
Right.
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
And he is a theater kid through and through,
Yes.
which is why he loves talkie, and he loves like I feel like a lot of his shit is structured.
Well, and
theatrically.
also huge thing about him, I mean, part of his whole like mythology, he writes A Few Good Men on napkins while working as a bartender at a Broadway theater. It gets in the hands of the right person who's like, we could fucking sell this to studios as a movie. And his contract is, I will not sell the rights as a movie until it gets staged on Broadway first.
Right.
He was like so dorkily obsessed with the idea of being
Yeah.
a playwright and not a screenwriter that he was like contractually, Sony basically has to pay to put this on Broadway for 6 months
So,
before I'll let Rob Reiner make it as a film.
so when I interviewed him,
Yes.
I interviewed him for To Kill a Mockingbird. And the angle was that Ed Harris was stepping into the role of Atticus Finch.
Did you do like sort of any warm-up exercises to make sure that your legs didn't get like worn out from the interview? It's good to do stretches.
Do
Before.
you
All right,
guys
let's
have to
go.
like go upstairs?
God,
Yeah.
It is so
Like-
great when he's on 30 Rock and they do the walk into I love
Incredible.
that episode.
Yeah.
But Ed and I was very scared to do this interview because one, I kind of admire Aaron Sorkin
Mhm.
and I didn't want to think I was an idiot. And two, I'm very scared of Ed Harris.
The
I admire
scariest
him
man.
too, but he seems
No,
scary.
he
In
seems
America.
really
The
scary.
number one scariest man.
But
in
I'm
America.
interviewing them at the theater. I had-
Together,
together.
that would scare the crap out of
Yeah.
me.
But it's really lovely to be in a Broadway theater when no one's there.
Mm.
And Ed Harris was late. And so Aaron and I are just literally like at the theater. It's one of the biggest theaters in Broadway. I forget what his name is. My brother's mad at me right now. And we're walking and the stage is all set up for Kill a Mockingbird. And he's like, take a look at this. And he like brings me over to the stage and the step, because people come in through the
Sure.
the aisles. Whew.
Ooh, good
There it
pull.
Great today.
Great pull.
And step onto the stage
Uh-huh.
in that production. And the step for people to get is half your foot doesn't even fit on it.
Interesting.
And he's like, look at this. Like, it's amazing people don't break their legs. And we just like, both of us are like taking steps up and down. And his like weird childish joy about
Huh. Yeah.
the stage and like then we're walking around on the stage, like it was just kind of obvious, like, oh yeah, this is still just like number one for him. He
Yeah.
loves this.
He loves it.
It's kind of, I mean,
Because he's like fucking rich and famous
Yeah.
now. Like, what does he need to be
I
doing
guess he
there?
has been busy for a long time, but it has always kind of surprised me that he doesn't do more theater. I guess he has Camelot coming.
But
this
now he's got
season.
Camelot.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
he's kind of back in on the
Yeah.
I think so
Broadway
too.
baby.
Yeah.
And then Ed Harris showed up and he was scary, but he was nice or polite.
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't yell at me.
No, but he had
But
some
he had a-
terse words for Maverick.
Oh boy. Anyway,
It is incredible when he shows up in that movie looking like a pile of sand, just yelling at Tom Cruise,
it's so yelling. He's like growling,
simmering.
Yeah, he's like, oh god, he's so good. There's like electricity coming out of his mouth. He's so cool in that movie.
Yeah.
All right. So Bale,
Yes.
DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Some other names they tossed around: Damon, Bradley Cooper, Ben Affleck.
Didn't someone really want Tom Cruise to do it?
Yes, Tom Cruise is on. I don't
That
really
is-
understand
That is
how
insane.
things like that
No.
get about. He
No.
would be really weird.
He'd be
really
really
weird.
weird. He's too small.
Yeah,
He's like not.
I understand that there's the single-minded intensity.
they're like,
Yes.
you're a freak, but
Right.
charismatic.
I will say though that like it would be so distracting to watch a movie about a father and daughter that stars
Yes.
Tom Cruise.
Didn't even consider that.
like it would
Absolutely.
just be. It would be all over anything anyone.
I'm
wrote
also
about
certain that
movie.
that is a box he would have
Yeah.
refused to open. There's no way
Exactly.
he would interrogate that stuff in
No,
himself.
no. And if
Yeah.
he did, maybe the movie would be a brilliant masterpiece.
Right.
But,
But I don't think
no, he wouldn't.
would be willing to do that.
The craziest thing, of course, is after all this fucking bullshit, and
Mhm.
Boyle is on board, and
Yeah.
Fassbender is finally the choice.
Right.
They're still arguing over the budget, and so Amy Pascal puts the project in turnaround, and
Mhm.
Universal immediately nabs it.
Right.
Which, like, obviously she was like trying to, what it was clearly part of her budget game was putting it in turnaround, but it seems like a weird mistake.
But it was
'Cause
also
it was
this
still a
question.
hot project.
It was this question of, is Fassbender a movie star? Right? Like end of the 2000s.
Definitely, because he'd done the X-Men.
Yeah, Hardy and
Inglourious
Fassbender were the two
Bastards,
guys at the
right.
industry at the end of the 2000s were like, is this the next wave? Are these the guys? You know?
when does Shame come out?
Shame is 11?
Yeah.
Shame is 11, and he was not nominated for that
Right.
film, but he was close.
But he was like around and he was kind of
and
he was
everyone's
very
talking
like
about his
Yes.
big old
'cause
hammer.
his big old hammer. But he had like he was doing X-Men and he
Yeah.
had all of these like he had the Steve McQueen, the like early McQueen movies, and like he was really about to be a guy.
Mhm.
And then after this movie, everything kind of gets weird, and then he goes dark and becomes a race car driver.
Well,
Yes.
he joined.
has a
He
very
joined the
weird-
Creed, obviously. As
Oh
well.
yeah,
he
you can't
joined
forget about the Creed.
Yes.
Assassin's Creed.
Oh,
Right. Yeah.
is he in that movie?
Yeah,
Oh,
of course
he
he's the
is
star.
that
Oh my god, sorry.
It's Ben's favorite film. But did you see that it circulated to Justin Kurzel, director of Assassin's Creed, that he has now listened to the episode?
Yes, I did see that, and I salute you, Justin Kurzel.
Knows that Ben is his number one fan. There's this.
Come on the show, Justin.
Yes, open invitation. There's this Terry Gilliam quote that circulates a lot with him talking about probably one of his 18,000 attempts to get Don Quixote off the ground in the late 2000s. And he's like, every company I meet with, they say you need a hard bender. And they're like, they want that tier of guy like Michael Fassbender or Tom Hardy, where everyone thinks they're
Hard bender.
Hard
that
bender.
sounds sexy.
It
and-
does.
Okay.
but it's stuck in my mind forever. But it's like that thing of these guys are still cheap because they're not actually movie stars yet.
Yeah.
But everyone in the industry agrees they are incredibly handsome, charismatic, talented. It's going to happen. And Fassbender's on this parallel track where he's doing his prestige projects and he's doing his blockbusters. And you're like, okay, so he's been Magneto. He almost got an Oscar nomination.
Yep.
It's,
And then he did eventually get one for 12 Years a Slave.
but in the moment that they're casting him in this, right?
Sure, he probably.
They're sort of like, I think the debate is he one film away from it finally happening and
Is
connecting?
this the movie?
Is this the
Yeah.
movie?
Are you going to get him right at the right time?
Or is everything that's happened over the last 5 years evidence that he's never going to quite be A-list? That he's maybe stuck at a tier right below? And so, yeah, there's a lot of hand-wringing in the budget of like, even for $35 million, can you do it with him? Do people like this guy?
Yeah.
For a character that is inherently unlikable, does it help to have a movie star that people already kind of know and feel comfortable with?
And I think what they boil down to in the email, Amy Pascal
Boil
is
down.
Danny
Danny
Boyle.
boiled down.
Hashtag boil down.
Amy Pascal is like, it doesn't matter. People will see
Yes.
this movie with Fassbender because he's enough of a name.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have Danny Boyle and you have Aaron Sorkin and you have one of the most famous men
Right.
in the entire world as
Right.
the subject. And then we get our beautiful movie.
We get our beautiful movie. Of course, she was wrong. People didn't really want to
Well,
see it.
sure.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
But yes.
Let's say
There is
also-
like a very prescient email in the Sony leaks where a guy is telling Amy Pascal, like the marketing guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, as it stands now, this movie is probably going to make like mid-30s. And he was exactly spot
He was
on.
Right.
dead right. And it was, well, we'll get to all of this. But the other thing to say is that the Ashton Kutcher project like rushed. They were sort of like, we have to be there first.
We can't be good, but we can be first.
We can be first. And I think
right.
they thought it was going to be like a photo finish, Bugs Life Ants thing. And instead, they come out 2 full years earlier.
Yes.
That movie flops even harder. It makes no impression, but it does fuck this movie over a little bit, where their confidence was like, well, everyone's waiting for the real one. And even though no one saw the fake one, by the time this came out, they were like, another one of these?
There was a little bit of that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I do think there was a little bit of like, Michael Fassbender is not a draw.
Yeah.
It's just sort of over and over again. Same with, no offense to the Creed, but same with sorry.
But
same with Assassin's Creed. Same with like anything where it's like all Fassbender on the poster.
That's the thing. It's like after this, he's like, fuck it. I have to do it. I have to do my franchise that is just me. That's not X-Men. That's not me taking over a role. I have to do my thing. And he does that after finally getting his Oscar nom, or second Oscar nom. That movie bombs, and then he kind of disappears and goes into a fucking race car for 5 years.
Excuse me, he didn't disappear. He gave us all the clues, and then he decided.
Well, that's
That's
truly.
Have you guys watched that movie?
No.
I mean, yes, in that I put it on, and the visuals went into my eyes,
That
and
movie-
supposedly into my
that
brain.
That movie played in front of you.
Yeah.
Right.
You
That
didn't
movie
watch
is
it.
like one of, it feels like you are on some kind of drug that makes like your audio processing
Yes. Right.
like system stop working. You're
And
like, none of this
I'm
is making
so
sense.
ready for that movie. The movie's like,
Yes.
there's a murderer in the ice. I'm
Perfect.
like, great. Michael Fassbender's on the case. I'm like,
Yeah.
fantastic. His name's Harry Hole. It's actually like Harry Hole or whatever.
I'm
but like,
still
But
with
it's-
it.
but it's
I'm
like
like,
Harry
cool.
Hole.
Yeah.
The murderer's called the Snowman. Great.
Yeah.
He does snowman crimes. Huh? And then
How
after
many
that,
clues did he leave you?
All of them. I
What?
love it.
But then, yeah, it's one of those movies where scenes seem to be missing, and then
Yeah.
the director was kind of like, "Yeah, I didn't get
didn't
to all the
finish it.
scenes."
Right. We needed like 10 more days.
Anyway,
And then he goes off and now he like lives in Lisbon with Alicia Vikander and they have a
Yep.
baby.
they sure do. They're a hot couple. His last credit was
X-Men Dark Phoenix,
correct,
right?
and his next this year he's in 2 films,
Yeah.
Killer and Next Goal Wins.
But this is, that's 5-year gap?
4 years.
Okay. No, this definitely felt like the movie that was the real test. You know, is this the breakthrough moment?
Obviously, I think this performance is tremendous.
I think it's very, very good.
I
Yeah.
don't really know who would be better. It's not a movie that at all screams to me like, oh, it just needed X. He's perfect to me.
Yes.
Bale is not an actor I love, so
I love Bale as an actor. So I think I get excited about the idea of him doing this, but Bale is one of my guys. It's the way you talk about Daniel Day-Lewis, where you're like, oh, it's like boring to say you like Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm like, I particularly like Bale a lot.
I
like
think
him
Bale
okay. He's
would
just
have
in a
like,
lot of David O. Russell movies.
yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
honestly.
true.
right.
I think
Yes.
Bale would have like
And a lot of Adam McKay movies.
done a little too much. She would have like hit it
Quite
a little
possibly.
too hard.
Quite possibly.
Which is like a thing that's good when that's what you're looking for when you're making like a David
It's
O.
the
Russell
same with
movie.
Joaquin.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, right. How much ham, how much cheese?
Well, this is one of these conflicted elements of this movie, right? I've been Jobs pilled. I'm here. I'm on the boat with you.
Well,
two,
right.
Okay.
Right. But we've like Jobs OD'd. We're like drowning in our own
Sure.
vomit.
I'm taking a couple.
You're right.
I'm still
Yeah,
following
You're like
instructions on the
having-
bottle.
You're having a good time, and David and I are like out.
I'm not trying to exceed more than 8 in a 24-hour
Sure.
period.
That's right.
I'm monitoring how much alcohol I drink while I'm on
very
jobs.
Good, very good.
Yes.
Right. Try not to do hard liquor. Beer
Yes.
and wine. Yeah.
But I do think it's an interesting question just in terms of certainly this movie's reputation at the time it came out. I do think that was another thing that was going against it where you're like, okay, so the guy playing Steve Jobs is that guy I kind of know, and then he really doesn't look like him. And to the credit of the movie and of Fassbender I think wisely like tries to approach this as a character more than needing to impersonate this guy or invoke him.
Yeah.
But I do think for a lot of people with a movie like this, they want to see the poster where they go like, "Holy shit!
Right,
Can you
well,
that's
believe
why-
this fucking
yeah.
Side by
And
side.
That's
Yeah.
why they put him in the like black turtleneck in
Yes.
the poster.
Right.
And, like towards the end, I will say in the last act, I'm kind of like, I get it. I
He
see
gets
it.
the pitch of the voice,
and he
they
gets the like
style
glasses
him.
on,
Yeah.
and like I see it more. When they're in the garage, he looks so hot that it is
Yes.
like
It's
distracting.
Yes.
And then also in the first part when he takes
I
off
was
his
gonna
shirt
say.
and
I
he's
was gonna
in
say.
and he's in the t-shirt and you're like, oh,
Because
He's
he's
got, like,
got
Assassin's
X-Men
Creed
on.
he's got
Yeah.
he's
He's got X-Men
jacked,
arms.
and
Yes.
he looks like so crazy hot that
Yes.
it's kind of like
It fucks
does,
up a little bit.
it takes you out of it.
Steve Jobs was handsome, but like
But
this,
But he was
was-
never built.
No.
But he was a trim guy who
Yeah.
paid more attention to how he dressed in a sea of
yes.
schlubs with
Yes.
big glasses
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Star
but-
Wars shirts and all that. Yeah.
But I do think, the decision of like, let's just get a good actor who will give a good
Exactly.
performance for
Right.
this,
Right.
confused a lot of the public.
And
Well-
that's always what Sorkin wanted to. Every time he does an interview about this movie, he
Yeah.
says it's a painting, not a photograph.
Right.
Like, I just want
David's
this to be
giving a
like
thumbs up.
Great line. Aaron.
impressionistic.
Well,
It's
yeah.
not the real thing.
Yeah.
I don't care about it being the real thing.
No, I mean a few movies have ever cared less about realism in their own way than this film.
And I think actually that is a much more interesting way to approach biopic or like a real story than like, Cradle to Grave. Because it's like, I don't actually care what happened with this person's life. I care about what you have to say about what this person's life like tells you about something else.
I agree 100%. Now I think we
have
should
to
start digging into the movie in earnest. But can I?
Which is what, like an hour 15 in?
But this is all really
This
important.
This is
Leave
so
us alone.
so important.
We've all been on.
It's a
been on
context-heavy
subject.
film.
Yes. Now, can I say the other line that bumps for me in this movie? The only other isolated line where I just go, Aaron, you're pushing
Yeah,
it
but I
one
might
step.
I wonder
shoot
if
you
it's-
with a revolver.
I wonder if it's the same one that I bump up.
What's
against.
yours?
Mine is when he asks Kate Winslet why they've never had sex.
I love that line.
I hate that line.
He's
I think
an
it's
asshole.
I know, but it's never. He's like a sexless being, other than being played
yeah.
by Michael Fassbender.
Yeah,
Like,
but he
It
wasn't.
doesn't make any sense why he would be like, "Why have we never slept together?"
I think he
unless
says
he's
that.
written by Aaron Sorkin.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and he is half Sorkin, but I that feels like something he said to her like 10 times because she
Yeah.
has the response where she's just like, because we're not in love.
I
Like she's
hate
not
it.
even looking at it.
Because what I like about them is
Yeah.
that they have this like crazy chemistry. There's like
Yeah.
electric chemistry
Yeah.
that never really feels sexual. They're just like two people who like love each other in this weird fucked up way.
But that's how I mean, I agree with that completely. I just think that's his relationship with everyone in this movie in a different way.
Yes.
Except for maybe Stolberg, but even Stolberg he kind of respects.
He
Yes.
says
Yes.
Stuhlbarg says, "I never liked you,"
Yeah,
and
he's
he
like,
said, "That's a shame. I always liked you." Griffin, what was
what's your bumpy?
I on this second viewing fully accept the sort of dramatic conceit of this film.
Okay, it's about Steve Jobs.
But all these conversations are going to be coming up constantly at the moment, right before these three,
right,
picking up
right.
basically right where they left off.
Right.
All of that. I think the moment he calls it out,
Oh, you don't like that? I love that.
it just feels a little too like I'll let you get away with it until the moment where you lampshade it and have the characters acknowledge the reality.
It's a little tossed off.
How
joke.
come every time I'm about to launch a product, everyone I know goes to a bar and then decides to unload on me or whatever he
Right.
says?
I think
Yeah.
it's funny.
I think it's a fun line.
I just think he's pushing it a little bit, Aaron.
That's what Aaron does.
I know he
pushes and he
does.
pushes,
Yeah.
and he does a great job pushing. You're always with him, and you're always with him. And, oh no, Chicago 7.
That's the thing is that Aaron
No,
Sorkin
it's running down the hill.
pushes and pushes and pushes,
Yeah.
which is why he's a bad writer-director.
He
Needs a director, or else he'll push himself
Look,
off of a fucking
He needs to
cliff.
push and pull.
I agree with
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
except I do love Molly's Game.
Okay, Molly's Game is the one where
It's
I'm
the,
like,
it's
this
the
is cool
uncut
and good.
H. It's
Because
the, like,
it also
yeah.
doesn't look like shit.
It
Like
looks
being the
fine.
Ricardos and
Oh.
especially Chicago 7.
Wow.
Chicago 7 is one of the worst looking movies.
Oh.
Chicago 7 looks like garbage.
Yeah.
It's so everyone's hair looks crazy.
I forgot about being the Ricardos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
A movie he wrote and directed.
3 acting nominations, David.
Who's the third?
That's-
J.K. Simmons?
Yeah.
That's
JK.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
J.K. Simmons has 2 Oscar nominations. Oh, I think you should have more. Whiplash? Yeah, Whiplash.
He won
What
for
was
that.
the other one?
Juno, probably?
Yeah, well,
Probably
yeah,
Juno.
come on. He's been in a lot
Patriots,
of good movies. Yeah, you just sort of keep going. And then like the sun sets and you're like, I don't fucking know. Come on, just tell me. What was it? Being the Ricardos. He's not in that. Yes, he is. He's in it.
Absurd. No, Molly's Game is like I think like 30% amateurishly directed,
Yes.
70% just workmanlike, get out of the way, serve the script, great performances.
It's got a couple ideas
Right.
visually that
It's got some. No, it's got some.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I think he's going to refine
Right.
it. He's going to become a really good. And then the next movie immediately, it's all bad habits take over. He's never coming out of this.
But geez, Trial of the Chicago 7 is fucking.
Remember when
Citizen
Jeremy
Kane compared to
Strong
being
said-
the Ricardos?
Both dog shit.
They are.
Remember when Jeremy Strong said he asked Aaron Sorkin to spray him in the face with real
Yeah.
tear gas?
Yeah.
Those two together in a room.
I know.
I can't remember. And when Jeremy Strong got profiled in the New Yorker, Jessica Chastain had to share like a typewritten letter from
Yes,
Aaron Sorkin.
She did.
God, everyone
God,
is
remember when there was a
crazy.
profile of okay?
One of my hottest
takes.
one of my hottest takes is that I think Jeremy Strong is good in Chicago 7 and Sacha Baron Cohen is disastrous.
Sacha Baron Cohen also it's just like the politics of that movie are so
horrendous.
awful.
And they totally
doesn't
warped
have
who
any
Abby Hoffman
politics.
was.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it's
No.
weird. It's a weird.
Right.
But that's the thing with Sorkin is he's like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Who are these guys?
Right.
Okay, I guess I'll read this book. Like he doesn't care about stuff like that.
No.
And so so he'll just do a thing where you're like, well, that Abby Hoffman didn't behave this way. You know what?
Sorkin's politics are like It's Morning in America, the ad, but not Reagan.
Yeah,
Like he likes
kinda
the
Clinton-y.
idea,
Yeah,
right? Like the
yeah.
Folgers coffee commercial
He's
with
like
the
people
siblings who want to
can
fuck.
do good if they
Right.
try hard enough.
Right.
And it's like, well, okay.
Right. It's totally sort of like just an abstract notion of integrity and honesty.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, yeah, I can't get into his politics right now.
Sure.
That's like a further pretzel to
Yeah.
unknot. But okay, Steve Jobs
Yes.
has 3 acts.
Mhm.
The first was filmed in 16 millimeter, the
Mhm.
second in 35, and the third in digital. I don't know
And
if you knew that.
And in between them,
I
they
know.
like unspool or the real ends.
It's really cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, the score, the perfect score by Daniel Pemberton,
Mhm.
which I listen to all the time. What's up?
Why did they do that?
Because time is passing.
Oh,
To sort of represent the
different
shift
time
technology in the
periods.
3 eras.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very. If you watch this movie over and over again, it really.
It's
You
I,
really see it.
I think it's incredibly
It's so
effective,
cool.
and it's a thing like that is it's not a showy look at my concept thing. I think it does affect the feeling of the
Yeah.
3
because
acts
the
and
score
differentiate
changes
them. Yeah.
every time as well. The composer used very, very different music styles for each act. Aesthetically, everything feels different. Obviously,
Yeah.
the setting is very different every
Basically,
time.
It's like 3 short films.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the main character is Steve Jobs,
Mhm.
played by Michael Fassbender. And he's always with his trusty publicity head,
Mhm.
Joanna Hoffman, played by Kate Winslet.
Played brilliantly by Kate
Played an
Winslet.
Oscar-nominated performance, snub for the win, maybe?
Golden Globe
Rachel McAdams should've
winner. Who wins this year?
Vikander.
Vikander.
It's one of those ones where you're like, oh, the worst.
And Eddie
performance
Redmayne
won.
won Best Actor.
No, he did not.
No, because he won
Best
the year
Actor for Theory of
before.
Everything.
Oh,
He
who is
was
winning
nominated for the Danish
this
Girl,
year
for
then?
Jan Danish
Oh
Girl.
fuck! This is the Leo year. This is the
This is the
Revenant.
Leo
This
year.
is the Leo year.
Oh.
I mean, I've said this so many times. If Vikander had won for Ex Machina instead, I think that would
That'd be
age well.
better. But listen to
I think
these
it'd be
5
fine.
nominees. I feel like we just did this.
Yeah,
I think
Maybe
you
not.
you and
You
I just did this.
Mm.
after we saw Scream.
humble brag.
Why were we talking about this year?
Because I think we were talking about
talking
this
about
movie. Yeah.
Well, it's also just so weird because that year felt like everyone being like, Vikanda's the new person. We're going to anoint her. And then she like also kind of disappears for 5
Yeah,
years.
they
Yeah,
go off to
even
live
though-
in Portugal.
Yeah.
I like Alicia Vikander.
I
to
do
be
too.
clear. I support her.
I do too. But
I'm
it
kind
felt
of-
like this
I'm kind
was
of
like,
meh on her.
That's
I've never
fair.
been wowed.
I don't really like her in The Danish Girl, the film she won Best Picture, best
she won Best
Supporting
Picture.
Actress
They
for.
gave her Best Picture.
Jennifer Jason Leigh in Hateful Eight.
Which is
Rooney-
kind of a career nom.
But, I like that performance. But
Sure.
yes, kind of a career nom.
Yeah.
Rooney Mara and Carol, obvious sort of egregious
Category fraud.
Should've
but
won.
obviously a good performance.
Oh.
But she's not winning because of the category. I really
Sure,
think the
yeah.
category
No,
fraud
I
though was
agree.
too crazy.
I agree.
Rachel McAdams in Spotlight,
My winner.
just an amazing performance.
Yeah. Lovely.
We all agree. on that.
Lovely.
Incredible.
And
Lovely
then
work.
in her
Winslet
ill-fitting khakis.
Incredible.
Winslet in Jobs, who was probably never going to win because she had recently won an Oscar,
Yeah.
but won the Globe and the BAFTA.
Right. So it kind of felt like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
It
Maybe.
kind of felt like maybe we'll just give it to her.
And it felt Vikander. It was one of those things where they were like, "Are they running her in
'Cause she's
lead
the lead of
for
that movie.
Danish
Yeah.
Girl and then
Right.
supporting for Ex Machina? Which one's she going to get nominated for?" And then she wins for the shitty movie that no one likes in a completely forgotten performance.
Best actor is almost more egregious to me because
Leo wins.
Because Leo wins for The Revenant. Okay, let's just play out an alternate history to this.
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender
Steve
wins
Jobs.
for Steve Jobs. We love that. That's great. Leo doesn't win. Leo does win for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, meaning that Joaquin does not win for Joker. How do we all feel about that?
Great.
Version
Sounds
of
good.
events?
Incredible.
Incredible
Right?
performance
Because
by him.
Like The Revenant is just like, that's the one.
There's also the version where they just give it to him for fucking Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
Like they
Right,
should've.
exactly.
It should have been the performance before or after
Yeah.
Revenant.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he had to lose to McConaughey that year.
Boo.
This is the whole thing. It's like,
Right, and I said give it to McConaughey for Interstellar.
exactly. No, but this is like, they were like, no, you don't understand. This McConaughey performance will stand the test of time. And
Right.
I could be like, hi, I'm here from 10 years later. It doesn't.
Right.
No one talks about that
Right.
performance.
But
We
the-
actually have kind of turned on that
Yeah,
movie.
everyone kind of doesn't want
Yeah.
to talk about that movie, honestly.
But even like the ripple effect of like giving I feel like I've said this one so many times, but Jeff Bridges, the He's Overdue Crazy Heart Award.
right, and then it's like True Grit rolls in
Right.
1 year
Right.
later.
And that year they have to give it to Colin Firth when Colin
Because they
Firth had given the better performance in the Bridges year.
Yeah.
And you're like, you could just swap them.
Here's the thing is that when you look at what the Oscars do, like if you just look at a sheet that's like
Yeah.
the best actor from every year, like the best picture from every year, it's like, damn, they fuck it up so much.
They do.
Every time.
I do feel like sometimes if you step back and you sort of squint like a magic eye
Right,
painting,
like a Monet.
you're like, by and large, a lot of the time,
It all works out.
the right
sort
people
of,
get their
right.
awards.
Yes.
And sometimes they got too late or they got too early, but then it course corrected or whatever. And some people just get snubbed and some people have awards that never should have gotten them.
Right.
But you're like, Joaquin should have one. Leo
Yeah.
should have one.
Sure.
It does divide out.
Anyway.
Maybe Fassbender will get one next year. Next
Maybe
goal
he will.
wins. The Killer.
Yeah.
The Killer.
The
The killer.
killer.
What if there was a killer?
So Kate Winslet is always there
Mhm.
with her Polish accent
Mhm.
sometimes. Seth Rogen is always there playing Steve Wozniak,
Okay.
the co-founder of Apple.
Can I say it? And you guys, I think, might boo me out of the room.
What?
I think this is the best performance in the movie.
Well, that's
I
crazy,
think-
but it's a great
I
performance.
think he is-
I
We-
won't bump up
we
against that.
love the
That's
performance.
I think he's
Great.
unbelievable.
In a
this
back
film.
to Oscar talk, in a perfect world,
Yes.
they are showing the scene in the orchestra pit
Yes.
when
Yes.
I feel
if
like
Seth Rogen got
Yeah.
nominated.
there he had some Oscar buzz, and then this movie's Oscar
When it
buzz just
bombed,
kind of died.
it went away because it's like he's not. Winslet is beloved enough, a favorite. Fassbender is sort of seen as overdue because of the shame snub. The comedian going serious is
Yeah,
not going to
this
get
was
over the
kind
hump
of
for a movie that
his,
flopped.
Well,
like-
it's his first.
It's his
Yes.
right.
first
It's
foray
really him
into-
doing his
yeah.
first dramatic role.
But I feel like it was a very similar thing with Patton Oswalt and Young Adult, where the second that movie bombed, it was like, it's not happening.
yeah,
You-
they had been flirting with it, and then
If you're a
forget it.
funny guy, the movie needs to have so much groundswell behind it to overcome. Yes.
Don't talk to me like I'm other people.
no,
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
he's
so
amazing in the
good.
movie.
I just,
All right.
the orchestra scene, his breathing pattern in it.
Yeah, well, he breathed good.
He breathes really.
breathes
he's doing
good.
like Gandolfini
Well,
breathing.
Yeah.
with
like,
it.
come on, like let's the legend. Is
I
the
think he's
legend.
phenomenal in that movie. In this movie.
We all agree.
Yeah.
Rogen amazing in this
Yeah.
movie. Maybe Ben doesn't agree.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's his best acting performance, period.
So in all three, okay,
Yeah.
in all three, Jeff Daniels is always there
Yeah.
as John Scully, who was CEO of Apple
Mhm.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
In the first two, but not the third,
Mhm.
Catherine Waterston is there as Chris Ann Brennan.
Sure.
Steve Jobs' former girlfriend.
Mhm.
In all three, Michael Stolberg is there as
Yeah.
Andy Hertzfeld,
Oh.
God.
who actually, you guys might not know, this is one of the little trolls from Frozen.
I was going to say
They
He
give him
actually
that
is a
little
rock,
haircut.
and then he spins and he
Yeah.
goes, "Hello."
a bit of a fixer-upper. It's one of the great shames of this movie's failure for me that I cannot buy a line of collectible plushes of Michael Stolberg and his various
in his
looks.
three costumes.
Yes.
His
when
little,
his
I don't know
little
that his look changes
when
that
his little
much.
bangs are like
Yes.
white at
His
the
white
end.
bangs
though?
and
little belly.
Oh, it's so cute.
He's adorable.
He
in this.
really is.
Yeah.
In every scene, in every act, Lisa Brennan Jobs is there, played by three different actors. Obviously, the last actor who plays her as a teen is Perla Haney Jardine,
Who's
who
Bebe
is
in Kill Bill Volume 2. She's
Correct.
also the Sandman's daughter in Spider-Man 3.
there. You go. Not Adam
believe.
Sandler's daughter, to
No.
be clear.
She's really good. All
Oh.
the Lisas are pretty good. Middle Lisa breaks my heart
Me too.
every time.
I mean, all 3 Lisas.
I think she kind of brings the heat in the last bit.
She's
Oh
terrific.
yeah,
Is Sarah
she's
Snook in
incredible.
all 3, or is she only
I
in
was
1 and
going to
3?
say,
Sarah-
okay, Sarah Snook is only in 1 and 3.
Okay.
She does not appear.
She
in
does
the
not
second
go
act.
over to next.
But she is
Gotcha.
playing a real person, Andy Cunningham, who is actually really happy with her portrayal in this film.
Yeah, you know what?
Why wouldn't you be?
I would be
She gets the exit
thrilled
sign
if
to
Sarah
turn
Snook
off.
played me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, if in the movie Steve Jobs is like, you did a good job. I have no notes. You did exactly what I wanted.
Fulfilled arc.
And also secretly in every act, John Ortiz
Yes.
as Joel Forsheimer,
Quietly.
a GQ journalist. He's actually profiling him every time.
Yes.
That's it. But like,
Kind of a
in
good running bit that Jobs keeps forgetting or not noticing that this guy is shadowing him and following him.
Correct. And there's this running joke that there are 2 Andys, and it's only by the 3rd act that Kate Winslet points out, like, the other Andy is a girl named Andrea. That's Sarah Snook's character. Like, you could just call her Andrea.
But he's like, I know who I'm talking about.
He
Everyone
says,
else should know.
that's
who
the
I'm
thing.
talking
He
about.
says, I know to call her Andrea. The problem is, it's a perfect Steve
It's
Jobs
such a funny
logic puzzle thing of like, but there's the error in communication here that I can't defeat.
Yeah.
But in every act, it's basically like he's running around and all of these people want some of his time in some, form.
Everyone wants just a minute to talk to him.
Exactly. And he's in the 3 acts, and this is the most brilliant choice by Sorkin, or the launch of the Macintosh, the launch of the Next, which is the cleverest choice, and the launch of the iMac. He doesn't get into the iPod or the iPad or the iTunes.
But he does get to a notion of putting 1,000 songs in one's pocket.
Interesting. He also tells Jeff Daniels that the reason the Howard doesn't work is because you've got styluses on your fingers.
The Newton.
The Newton.
I
Why
love
Howard.
I don't know. I guess they're kind
James
of the same
Newton
name.
Howard?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
They should have called it the Howard.
They
Yeah.
should have called it the
Is it
James Newton
disgusting that
Howard.
we can like figure out how the other is
Yeah.
like we all are
Depraved.
infected
Are
with
kind
the
of-
same stupid movie brain rot?
Oh gosh.
But
no,
that's
that-
sort of a reference to the iPad.
Yeah,
right?
or the
Subtly.
iPhone. He's like
Sure,
he's like
okay.
he can immediately laser in and say the reason your shit didn't work is because you had a stylus when you already have styluses on your finger.
I
the
think
things we could have done.
Yeah.
I think that is arguably the best like single moment distillation of what Steve Jobs' talent was in the movie.
But here you go. That's
Yeah.
what part of what this movie is about.
I agree.
Is everyone being like, why are you famous?
What's your thing?
What do you
What
do?
is the thing?
What is
That
this?
plays the orchestra.
Yes, and that's the way he describes himself. But like, I feel like it's trying to reckon with why is this man so consequential
Right.
when he doesn't actually do anything except sort of yell at people and have ideas,
Yeah.
think big picture, and then like kind of bully and cajole and frighten others into achieving what he wants, and even when what he wants seems illogical.
And even more
or-
fascinatingly, that he basically had that reputation for the first 20 years of nearly complete failure.
Right.
Like he was fucking tripping over and over and over again. Everyone's like, but obviously the guy's a genius. And we have these figures today, and some of them have seemed to conclusively prove themselves to be morons, And then there, I couldn't think of one in particular. But yes, no, to basically end the movie with the first time he's going to have like a complete success and
Yes.
completely kind of prove his whole philosophy.
It is cool that they picked that Sorkin picks like 2 flops
Yeah.
to start the movie.
I think it's really clever of him to not end with like the iPhone.
Yeah.
I guess.
Victory lap
And
stuff.
also the fact that Jobs is so like averse to acknowledging what is actually making Apple money.
The Apple
Let's
II.
all
Right.
acknowledge the Apple
Let's
II.
acknowledge the
Let
Apple
us take
II
some
team.
time to acknowledge the Apple II team.
Let's put some respect on the name of the Apple II team.
Why did
Just the
did
top
anyone in
guys.
this room ever own an Apple II?
Just the top guys.
What
David, just the top guys.
No.
is
I
that?
remember them in
Because you might
school.
have. Yes,
Yeah.
they were a classic school thing.
Oh, sorry.
You're Olivia, and I'm not saying this to shame you. Too young to have ever even seen an Apple II.
I had to. Okay, so here's my thing with this movie is that I actually don't give a shit about tech or Steve Jobs or
Absolutely.
anything.
I
just
think a lot of
it's,
people who love this movie
like,
feel the same way.
It's just
as
an
you.
incredible movie. So I had to like look up like what is the Apple II or
Right,
like
right,
what
right,
does it
right.
mean
What
if they're
is
like
anyone talking
running
about?
like a 560 computer on a 120. I'm like, I don't
512.
512.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't understand what any of that means. I'm just along for the ride.
Mm.
Yeah, like the Macintosh 512 had 512 kilobytes of RAM, aka
That's what I
my
figured.
phone for like 1 millisecond of whatever it does
Right,
now, or you know,
Right.
yes.
It's the like reserve that keeps your place in the
It's the-
game when you're on standby mode.
It's what plays like the worst ad when you're jerking off to something like in the corner.
And fellas,
Some weird
don't you hate
Simpsons
it
porn.
when...
I was just trying to think of the jankiest thing online.
course.
Okay. So, should we just start with the
you know
first
what
act?
truly is like equivalent to?
I don't.
The like tiny bit of like energy memory that keeps the time when your phone is off or whatever.
Sure. Right.
You know?
Just like tick tock, tick
Right.
tock.
Anyway, go on.
But I do want to say, because you
Yeah, you didn't have an
pointed to
Apple II,
me-
but did you have a Macintosh?
I looked up what was the first, because I grew up, Olivia, in an Apple household.
Right.
My dad
Oh.
was a
I knew
graphic
this
designer.
about you.
That's
Your dad is a
cool.
graphic
Yeah.
designer, and it was like whenever I was a kid, the
Yeah.
only kids who had Macs
Yeah.
were the kids whose parents worked in arts.
Man of science.
I
too.
had a
Yeah.
neighbor whose like mom was like a graphic
It was
designer.
always
and
that.
they
That
had,
was the
like,
only people who
the
owned Macs.
Mac desktop, and I
Hell
was like,
yeah.
"That's so cool."
We had a Gateway 2000.
There you go.
Moo.
Moo.
I mean, it sucked at the time.
But did you have a
because-
Macintosh?
Well, so
Okay.
I had a Macintosh Performa,
Mm.
which was specifically the 578 that came out in 1994. That was my first
Wow.
computer.
Wow. So you were also early computer household.
Yep,
Yeah, I don't
For
think we
sure.
had a computer in the home until 98.
Did that have the internet?
it did.
Hell yeah.
Yep. It had not American Online yet.
Yeah.
It must have had like,
CompuServe probably.
I was going to say Netscape maybe, but maybe
well, that's
CompuServe.
a browser. CompuServe is probably your like, yeah.
Okay. But the thing that sucked is that it had no games.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the
All
Mac
of the
was
games
not
were on
really.
PC.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
immediately was just kind of like,
It had,
what?
like-
I'm going to learn with this?
I felt like you could get like some of the Sim game, like Sim
Sure.
Cities.
There was, it was
Stuff.
a much more you weren't buying Disney Interactive CD-ROMs
Kids weren't
for
like running
Mac.
to your house to play.
I
on
didn't
your
have to get permission
Macintosh.
from my parents to buy any of the games that were available on Apple computers.
Yeah, I mean we were
right. They were all family friendly.
we were like a
Yeah.
little later.
No skulls.
There's
were
like
exploding.
math munchers. That were my options.
You couldn't get Quake or whatever.
No.
Yeah.
We were like a little later getting a computer in the household, and so I
Right.
would be so attracted to any kid I knew who had a computer at their place, like being like, "Oh, yeah, I played it with that kid. Play on the computer, play some games, go online," you know?
Yeah.
Or like, Dad, I really want to come over to your office. I should spend more time in your office. It has the internet, and I can look up Lego.com, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever. Going over to kids' houses who had Macs, it felt a little bit like we don't even own a TV. There was this attitude of like, actually, the Mac is better.
Right. That's what they were like.
But
They
your
were-
computer does nothing fun. What are you talking about? Until the iMac, it was like, this computer is boring and
I mean,
you're telling me that you're better.
The old joke was that they were like Catholics and
Yes.
that PC users were like Protestants, where the Mac users were like, it has to be this way.
Yes.
It's very important
Yes.
and it's the best version of it. PC users are like, I don't know. I don't know what this is.
But here is the thing I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay. So anytime I would have to use a PC computer and like even remember like seeing it boot up and like seeing DOS
Mm.
and seeing just like what they talk about in this first part of the movie,
Yeah.
the design, the aesthetic.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid being like, this sucks.
Yeah, it
This
sucks. It was
sucks.
bad.
This is really bad.
Yeah.
Like
You
what
didn't think it
I'm-
was a friendly face where the slot was a smile?
No, it was the opposite. It was like so clunky
Yeah.
and just seeing even just the like behind the scenes of how the computer worked, like it was just immediately recognizable that like Apple computers were superior.
They were superior. And the whole thing with the first act of the film, which is about the Macintosh,
Mhm.
128,
Mhm.
is he's had this great idea for a computer that anyone can use,
Mhm.
including his 5-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because it's 1984, it costs like the equivalent of like 10 grand today.
Well, David, let's not skip ahead because a thing that I had completely forgotten that I think is actually really key to this movie is starting with the Arthur C. Clarke interview.
it's
Yeah,
so
I
I
love
think
it.
it is
So good.
incredibly important.
Arthur C. Clarke just raining threes,
Oh,
by the way. Just like
unbelievable.
everything he says is
Just
correct.
really
Yeah.
saying
From, like,
exactly what's going
He might
to
as well be
happen.
like, and then you'll pay your bills with PayPal.
he's
and,
literally like,
eBay
you-
is going to be the auction site.
You won't have to work in an office anymore.
Yeah.
You can live out in the country
Yeah.
and work remotely.
He's
predicted the
raining
damn
threes from
pandemic.
like the concession stand. Like he's not even on the court. He's so far away, and everyone is just like, interesting theory, Mr. Clarke. But basically, I do think he sets such a good context for what's going to drive Steve Jobs for the rest of this movie, which is like these people who see this is the future. This is the thing that fundamentally changes humanity
Right.
and society. The greatest obstacle to that right now is that computers seem scary. They seem unfriendly, daunting.
And they seem like for technical professionals who need them, but they don't seem like something
And Arthur C. Clarke
casual.
is like, here are all the functions that these will serve at some point to make our lives easier. But saying to this little kid, someday it's going to be this big and not this crazy room that looks like a dentist's office, right? Steve Jobs is just like obsessive about like, how do I get the thing that makes people feel comfortable?
Right.
That they want to bring into their home for the right price, the right functionality, the right look.
He doesn't want the hobbyists and the hackers.
He doesn't want it to be opened, and he doesn't want it. Yes, like, you know, he was
like a
he was
computer
very
for the people.
Look,
Right.
Not to jump ahead, but the first PC the first computer my grandma ever bought was an iMac. The iMac.
She's one of the 30% of people who had never owned a computer
That
before.
really was that moment where it's like my grandma in her 60s at that point was like, well, you got this internet now. I guess I should check it out.
It finally seemed
I want
approachable
a computer
to a lot of people.
that you plug it in, you plug the mouse in, you plug the keyboard in. That's all I have to do. It works and it connects to the internet and it gives me email.
I remember when
he was right
he
in
was right.
84. It's just that nothing else was really ready for him there.
I just remember blowing my fucking mind when my like elementary, middle school or whatever converted to iMacs. You walk in and now there's just like a lineup of iMacs and you're like, that's the whole thing? There's like nothing under the desk.
Nothing underneath,
There's no giant console. It's just this one thing that looks like candy.
They were in our computer lab too, and they looked so cool.
They looked so cool.
That is the like Steve Jobs thing.
Yeah, Lisa Brennan Jobs is wrong.
Is that it like has to look good, and people have to like how it looks. That's why he changes out the fucking hydrangeas to the calla lilies in the middle section.
A great unspoken thing that happens throughout the middle section.
It's so smart, and he's right. It does look better.
This other thing he, I think, understood is like you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And people remember the way these things. Yeah.
Right, because of course the central dilemma of the first act is that they need the Macintosh to say hello, which is what it did on stage.
It has to be
you can
friendly.
watch the video.
But it's like we've just seen the Arthur C. Clarke interview. This is the exact thing he's combating. It can't be Hal.
Right. And Hertzfeld, the programmer, is like, it's not going to happen. It's going to crash. It's not going to work. And he's like, it better work. And he's bullying him and he's cajoling him. Right. I'm going to call you out on stage if it doesn't work.
He lifts up Hertzfeld's t-shirt and he goes, which symbol is on your chest? Because he looks like a fucking Care Bear. Remind me, are you like a 4-leaf clover? Or are you, are you
Keep
a rainbow? You got a lollipop tummy.
That shot where Jobs is like threatening Hertzfeld and the elevator is closing in on him as he shoots him with the finger.
No, he's doing this.
He's doing this. He's doing it to his own head. It looks so good.
But that's the moment he's just taking the shirt off.
He's just taking the shirt off.
He's
That's
got the
thing,
fucking guns. And then when he puts the gun to his head, he's flexing.
Oh my God.
It's too hot.
It's too hot. So you got that going on. You've got him flipping out over the fact that Time Magazine has put a weird sculpture of a computer on.
Well, he doesn't know it's a sculpture yet.
He thought he was going to be Man of the Year. Instead, Person of the Year is the computer.
And he's blaming it on
another great job by Time Magazine.
He's blaming it on the fact that Dan Kotke, who we never see in the movie, there's all these people in the movie who we never actually see but are referenced constantly, which I think is cool. But it's because he gave a quote about Chris Ann and the paternity, and he's like, this is why I'm not Man of the Year, because now I'm some kind of bum father or whatever.
Right. And he gave a quote. Jobs gave a quote to Time Magazine, an absolutely absurd quote that is a real quote he gave. That like, oh, this paternity test doesn't mean anything. Like, if you do the math, like 28% of American men could have been the dad.
What is that? What is the number on the? It's like 94%.
It's 94% accurate, and he has somehow extrapolated that.
His
into
argument is
the remaining 6% equals
28% of American men.
Right, but she interprets it as
You're calling me a slut.
Right.
Yes. Now, Chris Ann was this sort of like weird hippie lady he lived in a commune with. Again, you should read Lisa's book if you're a nerd like me. She certainly was a complicated person, it seems like. And a weird mom and chaotic, etc. But yeah, he's essentially slandering her in the press. And as she's pointing out to him, he's rich. So, you know,
he's incredibly
step
rich,
up.
and everyone's talking about what a rich genius this man is.
It's in the first section where he said, "Now would be a good time to get in on Apple stock."
Yes, he does say that.
Oh, that's such a dick thing to say.
He says a lot of dickish things to her.
Dick to her.
Catherine
He's not nice.
Yeah, he's not very nice to her. It seems to be some kind of weird defense mechanism he has. Catherine Waterston's really good in this movie, playing like. Yeah. What are you doing on your phone?
I'm just doing the free spins on Disney Emoji Blitz so I get the diamonds.
I was like, it has to be something that depraved.
It is.
Yes.
Hey, thanks, Steve Jobs. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be able to have two devices I could sync up with each other to get double diamonds.
I don't even want to know.
Well, you do it on the iPhone and you do it on the iPad and you log into the same account, so it lets you do it twice in 1 hour.
This is scary.
I'm not
spinning in
acknowledging.
this grave right now. What do you think of Catherine Waterston as Chris Ann
I
Brennan?
always love her.
Yeah, me too.
I think she's good.
Yeah.
Because
think
it's
she-
the toughest role in a way.
It's the toughest role. So I think she I don't know if she totally gets there for me personally.
Mm.
I think she's asked to be like a Sorkin woman, which is, hard.
Pretty thankless job.
She's
Yeah.
complaining.
She's complaining and she's
yeah.
crying and she has
Right.
to be like the woman. Like Kate Winslet does not really have to be
No,
like
that's
capital T, capital
right.
W.
Well, Kate
the
Winslet
woman.
is like the conscience of
yeah,
the movie.
exactly.
obviously.
And so I think Catherine
Yes.
Waterston has one of the hardest jobs
Right.
in this movie, and she does fairly well with it.
But eventually she arrives with Lisa.
Mhm.
Lisa's a 5-year-old girl.
Mhm.
And Steve is so heartbreakingly mean to her.
Horrendous.
Something funny that Steve does is that I think Joanna says, Chris Ann is here. And he goes, Brennan? As if there is another
Yes.
Chris
What a common
Ann
Yeah.
name.
who
Yeah.
he knows.
Yes.
He's such an asshole.
He's such an asshole. But yes, the fact that he keeps on openly in front of his daughter saying she's not my
Yeah.
daughter.
Right. And that
At an
he's...
age where it's like, this will stick to her
Yeah.
forever.
Right.
This is
And
kind
that,
of a lifelong traumatic thing to
Yes.
hear.
that
Right.
she plaintively says oh, so the Lisa's not named after me. And he's like, no, it's just a coincidence.
Local
Because she'll
integrated
actually
systems
listen to her.
architecture.
It's so much
Right.
worse than that because everyone sort of goes move on.
Don't
and
listen
he's
to him.
like,
Don't listen to him.
no. You know what? Actually, I need to take the time to drill this into her head.
And I think this is part of why people don't like this movie, because he is so acid, nasty in the first part of the film. It's not like he's all, giggles in the latter two acts, but he does soften and evolve and learn. And there is some, but he's really tough in the first act. He's
Yes.
pretty unlikable.
So for people who aren't going to read the books, like me,
Hmm.
why is he doing this?
Well,
to her?
it's the great mystery of Steve Jobs.
it's
why
never
the fuck did he
really
behave this way?
revealed or
It's some combination of he clearly feared initially, in his early years, he had a baby in a commune with a woman he was sort of not really, that they were kind of dating, it was a commune, right? And he clearly was like, I'm famous now. I'm the great Steve Jobs, right? I can't have this dinging my
kind
legacy.
of love child,
Right.
almost.
And also I'm sure he probably had lawyers and himself being well, you don't want to, don't pay any more than you have to, right?
right.
But the Lisa Brennan Jobs book is so the thing that's so painful is that he wouldn't acknowledge it for so long. Stuff like the computer, which he it took him almost to the end of his life to finally be yeah, I named a computer after you. Where it's everyone knew that already. You know what I mean? But he would get weird and stubborn about it. This is the whole mystery of him. Why was he such a fucking asshole sometimes?
And I think the movie, I think Sorkin tries to be well, he got adopted by this
Yes.
family and then they gave him back.
the book is very big on
Yeah.
this too. He was very fucked up about that notion that
They-
he'd been returned.
They
by a
gave him
family.
back, and then his new parents had to his new adoptive parents had to duke it out for a year in court to become his adoptive
Because
parents.
they weren't viewed as good enough to be
because
his
his
parents.
birth mom was they have to be Catholic
Yes,
and,
middle class,
or whatever.
A certain
And-
college education.
And his
Yeah.
but adoptive parents weren't. And so he says in the movie, my mom refused to love me for a year. And Jeff Daniels is you can't do that. And Steve Jobs says, yes, you can, which I think is what he's trying to do with Lisa.
Right.
He's I'm
closing that off.
I am
right.
not trying to love this child on purpose. And it kind of cracks a little bit when she does that little drawing on Mac Paint.
Okay, so
one of the
yeah.
greatest moments.
right. So he's got the Macintosh out,
Mhm.
and she's fooling around with it, and then she does a painting for him.
That look kind of like the
I can't
iMac.
talk about it. I'm gonna start crying. Someone else talk about it.
Okay, so she.
No, I want to force you to talk
I
about
don't.
it.
I don't want David to cry.
I want David to talk about it.
I burst into tears so many times during this movie, and it's always to do with the daughter.
Talk about
that's always it's the theme throughout the movie. They can only communicate
Yes.
through technology,
Yes.
right? And not just through technology, through his inventions. That's his ego, right? In the most spectacular way, right? You're always just talking about his shit. And there's even that moment later where Kate Winslet's talk to her about the things she likes. That's how you can communicate with your daughter. And that's when he talks to her about the song. We
Yeah.
can talk about that
Yeah.
later. But
Both sides now.
almost everything else is her painting the abstract, right, in the first act. Her asking about the cube in the and like the measurements of the cube
ruler.
in the second act, right? And then obviously 1,000 Songs in Your Pocket.
Yeah.
In the third act. But when she makes the abstract and the look on his face
And
when he sees it.
And that's the moment where he looks at her and then he makes her type her name in, and you can see in the
she
shot
types her mother's name because that's her last name.
But you can see in when the camera is behind them looking at the screen, he's just like staring at her. And there's just so many good shots of Fassbender like looking at this girl and being like, fuck, she is smart. She is just like
which is the thing that almost hurts him the most to admit.
Yeah. And that moment,
and which everyone is saying, like, this girl is just like you. Don't you understand this?
That
like,
moment where he turns around and says she's using MAC paint, right? Yes, and he's like glowing, and then he suddenly goes like, "I'll buy you a house. I'll pay for everything.
You
Don't
gotta
worry
get to
about
a better
it."
School.
But it's like this odd thing of like he is equally proud that the computer works in the way he envisioned it would, and
it's
that
his two
she
children.
is smart enough to know how to use it. And the two things communicate to
exactly
his entire philosophy of like, I need to do this not because I want to be seen as a genius, not because I want to make $1 billion, but because I actually think there is like human potential that can be unlocked by
putting these in front of kids,
the tools,
anywhere in the world,
right? What suddenly can happen, and it's like in that one moment he sees the thing that he's been fighting for like 10 to 15 years, that's still 10 to 15 years away from actually really working on the scale he wants it to, but it crystallizes the whole thing for him of like, I'm not wrong.
No, this can work.
Right.
Like he says with the, what is the name of the ship when they're in the next section? The spaceship?
The Skylab.
The Skylab. And he's like, the 8 years away thing. It's like, they're 15 years away.
Right.
Yes.
But they actually will figure out how to get it down.
He's the thing right now is literally just too expensive. That was the problem with the Macintosh. It costs so much that only computer hobbyists would want to use it.
Right.
And computer hobbyists were like, what the fuck is this thing? I can't even take the back off and put my favorite doohickeys in it. You know? And so
put a sound card in.
But all these balances of like,
dorks.
is it better to have the price be down, but for it to have no memory? Is
right,
it better
for it to be a crappy thing.
Be the right shape or size that it's inviting into people's homes, but it doesn't run all these things.
This has always been the Apple thing. It's like you pay this premium for something that does what other products do. And Steve Jobs would be like, yeah, but it does it better. And you'd be like, well, sure, but I don't have another $500, Steve, or whatever, like, and that was the thing with this fucking.
And you'd also be like, why
iPhone.
doesn't it do this one thing that I really want to? It's like, well, that's not our philosophy.
Yeah, right. And then sometimes you'd be like, I don't want you to do that thing.
Yeah.
Which
we decide that discs don't exist anymore.
One of the most interesting things about the iPhone was that you couldn't look at porn on it. And I remember, and that was late in Steve Jobs' life, like some tech reporter like texting with Jobs being like, come on, Steve, like, people are grown-ups. Like, can't they make these decisions for themselves? And he's like, yeah, I don't think so. I think I don't think they should. Like he just fundamentally sometimes.
He was maybe right about that one.
No, this is the thing. Sometimes you're like, well, I mean, I don't know about the porn thing, but just in general, like sometimes you're kind of like, yeah, maybe we don't need like that.
Well,
much,
that is like the thing about this movie is that he's usually right. Like outside of in his interpersonal relationships, he is almost always wrong.
Right.
And when it comes to Apple, he is almost always right.
And when you see him in his house, like there's the where it's like, which is apparently how he lived. Like there would be no furniture in the house, and they'd be like, "Where's your furniture?" And he's like,
it's hard.
It's hard to pick a sofa."
But there is like a
giant. It's not that hard. You're rich.
A giant light up Picasso.
Right.
But that is the genius of the guy, where like he could look at any situation and be like, "Here's the thing in terms of how this is going to work 6 months into someone doing this every day," right? He had such an intelligence about like what are human behaviors, what are our wants, what are our needs, things that are almost unspoken, the annoyances, the one extra step that drives people insane, that slowly like gnaws at you. And how do you circumvent that, or how do you solve the problem that people haven't even identified they need solved for them yet? But yes, it's all in service of this idea of like making lives easier for people, making them happier, a thing he has no ability to do as a human being. He only makes people more miserable and stressed out.
It's having empathy for the consumer.
He has consumer empathy and zero empathy for anyone he actually knows firsthand.
That's what's so frustrating and
that's what makes it so good. That's what makes it such a good movie.
But like tech guys like Wozniak are caught up in the potential of like, what could this do? And thinking about like the arms race against the other tech guys. And he's like, I'm thinking of the consumer. I'm thinking of David's grandmother 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And like, what's going to confuse her? And how can a guy be that thoughtful and also be like, I'm going to say to this 5-year-old, to her face that I'm not her dad. And you ask, like, how is that even possible? There's that exchange that he and Winslet have later in the movie. What's the term she keeps on using? Like selective illusion or something like
the
that?
reality distortion field.
Reality distortion
That's what
field.
that everyone at Apple talked about.
Yeah.
But that was also that it's like that what that referred to was that people would come to Jobs and he would be like, I want you to do this in 3 months. And they would be like, well, that's literally impossible.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Like I
Right.
can't design that in 3 months. And he'd be like, yes, you can, you know. And they would kind of get sucked into it because they'd be near him.
Yeah.
And that was part of his charm or his magic or whatever, is that you get sucked into the reality distortion field. Yes.
Did any of you watch the ILM documentary that
No.
launched cast into Disney Plus? It's so fucking good, David.
I just watched Steve Jobs again.
Yeah, here's what you should watch next. ILM documentary.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part where Dennis Muren is talking about on Empire Strikes Back, they're working on a shot. George decided he wanted like an extra establishing shot of the Hoth landscape where the camera is sort of like a helicopter shot overhead. And then he was like, could we get Luke and the Tauntaun going by tiny in the middle of the shot? And he's like, this is an actual shot. This is a real shot. I can't just add the stop motion element to it here. Right. And he was just like, well, how would you go about it? And he's like, George, it's impossible. You didn't storyboard it this way. We didn't shoot the plate in the way that it was conducive. And he was like, George just said to me, okay, well, just think on it. And I was like, it's impossible. And he was like, I hear you, just think on it. And he was like, George walked away. I sat there stewing for 15 minutes at the arrogance of him not accepting me speaking from a place of knowledge, which he did not have. George did not understand
we get you.
any of this technology. And then 15 minutes in, I went, oh, fuck, there's one way to do it. And I solved it. And he was like, I never, ever would have gotten there if he hadn't said that exact thing to me. Even like, it's sort of a flip of the Jobs thing, but like if he had yelled at me and screamed at me, or had even been kinder and be like, try your hardest, I would have never gotten to it.
Right.
And it was the fact that his only path was just like, well, think about it, see what happens. Jobs was sort of like the more extreme hostile version of that, which is like, here's what I want. And everyone would go like, that is not grounded in reality.
The reality distortion field.
It's impossible. And it's just like, well, figure out how it's
Figure it
done.
out.
Yeah. It's not my job to figure it out. My job is to tell you what
My job is
thing
to have
to
the
aim
idea and then you figure it out. Kind of a
That's what he
sick
did.
job if you have that talent, just to be the person who's like, what if there was an iPod?
But can I come in with this? What is that job very similar to? Being a film director.
Well, sure.
yeah.
Little of that.
That's a little bit of the Boyle
Although-
thing here. Although Boyle is obviously the opposite of this, where he's like, I'm not a dictator. I try to operate from kindness. I try to have good relationships with people.
I mean, I think he's injecting so much empathy into the film.
Of course.
I love David Fincher.
Yes.
I love the man.
Yes.
And I do not think he makes like emotionally distant movies. I
But
think there's a lot
Fincher's
of emotion.
Closer to a Jobs.
Yeah.
In a way.
I don't know what his version of the
No.
Jobs Lisa relationship comes out as. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
But when Wozniak says the thing to him of like, it's not binary.
Yeah.
You can be a genius and be nice at the same time. It's like that's the thing that Boyle as a person is arguing for in this movie while making a movie about a guy who didn't think that was possible.
Or at least didn't practice that.
Because that's what the director job is. It's a George Lucas story of like, I need to get 18 different things done to realize some vision without necessarily understanding each of these jobs firsthand.
Wait, what do you want to say, Olivia?
What I was going to say is that in preparation for this, I went back and listened to my other favorite podcast, What the Fuck with Mark Maron. And I listened to the Danny Boyle episode where he went on promoting this movie. Mark Maron, by the way, loves this movie.
Yeah.
Taste. But Danny Boyle is like, most of my movies are about redemption. Like that's like the Catholic in me. Like there at the end of this movie, there is some sense that like through this father-daughter relationship, something has been
achieved. Changed. Whatever.
And I just don't know that Fincher can really like get there.
Who knows?
From there is like a slight like gooey center to this movie.
Yes,
like way
was
deep
much
down.
criticized at the time.
Turn me off at the time. Now I think is essential.
But
that's harder for Fincher to get at.
I mean, again, it's a movie that doesn't exist. I'd love to see some version of it, but this movie's
Fincher
perfect. So.
likes bottled emotions.
Yeah.
Like he likes the people's inability to actually say the thing.
Right.
Versus this is a movie about a guy who needs to in some way admit, acknowledge, right.
The only other big thing in the first act that we haven't really talked about yet is Wozniak, of course, lovely Woz, who always appears the same way. Like, hey, Steve, really excited for you, like, and he's like, can you just shout out the Apple II, guys? So the Apple II, you guys know what an Apple II looked like?
Yeah,
Only because I looked it up.
It
yesterday.
had the green screen.
Eventually,
so like
it
the
did.
hacker screen,
Yes.
the like
Yes.
green
But
text.
really, all the Apple II is this.
Huh.
Is this.
yeah.
And you could hook it up to whatever you wanted, whatever
Sure.
monitor you wanted. You could play games on it. You could plug it had lots of slots, which is what they're arguing over.
The slots.
What does
You know,
does
is it
Woz say?
like-
It's like people love slots.
Yes, because like Woz is a computer nerd.
Right.
It's the fucking 70s.
Yeah.
If you're a computer nerd, you're basically like a metal engineer.
Right.
It's so hard.
It's like hot rodders. Like they want to soup up their cars.
the
Yeah.
game Breakout, with Steve Wozniak programmed that game.
Wow.
It's one of the first ever video games. That was a Woz joint.
Damn.
Were you about to say what were people doing on these things?
Well, I was saying more, what are you doing with 8 slots? There wasn't that many different kinds of floppy disks.
But you would plug in these like fucking cassettes that you could like
Anything.
run,
Right.
and like you would plug in game controller. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did with those. I'm not a computer hobbyist.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
My dad had this stuff. It was called a SideQuest, and it was magnetic tape.
Right.
Whoa.
And it was the most memory you could get on a portable whatever drive disk.
I believe you could get 8 megabytes.
You get 8 megabytes, and it was huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the size of a computer now.
But that's like, the hardcore people who were using computers at this point in time, most of the things that would take advantage of those slots were failed technologies that would be like, out of here within a year or whatever. But people wanted to be testing out every new idea that someone had for an add-on. And the idea of, for that extreme kind of consumer, there's a certain Wozniak level of Steve Jobs empathy for consumer of like, don't make them have to swap it out all the time.
Right. Well, yeah. Yes. But the Apple II at that time, obviously, is the big seller for them because that's the computer market. But Steve doesn't want to acknowledge them.
No.
That's the
Because
past.
he
Because he
doesn't
didn't. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. On
He's
it.
not
It's
part of it, and
Woz's
also he
baby.
doesn't want his cool product to be associated with that,
Yeah.
computer dork thing. Anyway, they're hoping the Macintosh is going to sell 1 million units. It doesn't. It was a flop because it was too expensive.
Mhm.
And of course Jeff Daniels is there. That's the other right. Jeff
Yes.
Daniels. The big thing with him in the first act is they're talking about the Ridley Scott directed
Mhm.
1984 ad,
It's starring skinheads.
which had
And
some
they're
skinheads
enjoying
in it.
a 55 Margot.
They're having a 55 Margot,
Mhm.
and they've got this whole father-son thing, right? It's very obvious.
Oh, did
One
you
of
guys
the-
want a glass?
Yes, please.
Okay,
One of
here.
the funniest exchanges of dialogue in this movie is when they're talking about the bet that Hertzfeld had made that Jobs was gonna switch the verse
Mhm.
from the Bob Dylan song, and Jobs is like, "Why would Hertzfeld make that bet?" And he says, "Because he was warning me that like being your father figure is gonna be a bad shake."
Yeah.
And then Jobs like tries to go yell at Hertzfeld, and Jeff just like turns back and he's like, "I'm proud of you," like immediately snapping into father mode.
Yeah.
It really works for me, and it makes me kind of giggle every
I
time.
mean, Daniels is just so in the pocket
Daniels-
on the Sorkin thing at this moment.
He is really making a meal out of everything he is asked to do in this movie.
I remember reading some interview with Daniels.
His jowls be going crazy in this movie too. He'd be jowling all over.
I always, every time I look at Daniels at any age, my first thought is golden retriever.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
But just
especially
kind of
like
like
terms
a-
of endearment or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But he looks like a golden retriever. You know when a golden retriever gets old and
Now
like,
that's
yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's the thing. I'm like, but terms of endearment, I'm like, oh, it's a young, plucky.
Yeah.
And then this, you're like, it's some old dragging his hind legs dog.
yeah. Right. Where you're like, yeah. And
Yeah.
he's
It's not just his hair coloring, but it's
No,
the
he's-
length of the face and his whole attitude is sort of aw shucks thing. But I remember an interview with him. I think it was when this movie was coming out, but also maybe there was another newsroom season or it was ending or whatever it was. And he was doing like a career overview thing, and they asked him about working with Sorkin because he had such a good kind of connection with him at this point. And then they do To Kill a Mockingbird after this. But he was just like, the whole thing is, I just threw my pen in fury. He's like, the whole thing is you just have to know the dialogue so well. Like you need to wrestle this stuff down. It's really precise, it's really specific, it's really rhythmic, and you need to know it's so dead to rights backwards and forwards that then you can play with it and do anything with it. Because you're not going to play with the language, you can play with how you dance around it. That's the thing I remember him saying. He's like, then you can dance on it. And I always just picture
that is really what he's doing.
Jeff Daniels doing a soft shoe on top of like a Sorkin script.
Yeah,
but yes,
which
he is
he's good
dancing.
at it.
How do
He's
you guys
dancing on it.
feel about the Boyle projection, like when he's projecting the lyrics to the Bob Dylan song?
Love any of that shit. And then in the second act
Yeah.
where he shows the
Skylab
Skylab,
on the
I mean,
hall.
that's the point, breaking the
sure.
reality.
It
You're
was
in a movie,
yes.
baby.
It was a thing that I don't know if it bugged me the first time I saw it, but it was sort of that thing of like, Boyle feels like a weird choice for this material. And then I'm going to see it and I'm like, why did Boyle make this? And then those things start happening. And I was like, he couldn't help himself, huh? But now I think it's more of a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ad is crazy, though.
That
right?
ad is so
It's kind of
crazy.
insane. But
that
I
ad
also think
rules.
Yeah.
It's
it's like
also
unlike anything else.
Probably like the most famous ad
Right.
Yeah.
in
ever.
the world. Like, it's incredible.
But also they're right about it where it's like the ad was a massive success as a piece of filmmaking
Yes.
Right.
that did nothing for the brand or the product.
No.
It worked mostly as an advertisement for itself. It did plant Apple in the name, like the name in the heads of people.
It was a success, but it was
Yes.
not a success the way a corporate board might perceive it because the
Right.
Macintosh didn't sell. But the Macintosh didn't sell because it cost too much money.
Yeah.
Fundamentally.
Yeah.
The ad rules, Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
We'll do it one day when we do him.
Sure.
We'll do the 1984 ad. I'm going to throw a hammer. It'll be great.
Act 2.
Yes. I know. No, I know. We've been talking for a long time.
Can we say, I just want to quickly say, at 2 points, look, we obviously did a very committed bit in the 127 hours episode where
Yeah,
for
yeah.
real we recorded for 127 straight
Of course,
hours.
and you guys have heard that.
And that was real and it was great and it was really
Yeah,
seamless.
we really leaned into
We
it.
really leaned into it and it was clean and we didn't forget to track the logic of it
That's
at times.
why I have strep.
Of course. At 2 different times, Ben has pitched one, doing the entire episode on treadmills.
Yes.
That was a pitch at one point. How many
Walk, I'll
treadmills could I
talk.
get so we could walk and talk the
okay.
whole episode?
Which David
We'd really
David's
get our
ar-
steps in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But David's argument was it would be too loud.
It would be very loud.
Right.
Those things are not
A
quiet.
treadmill is loud.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And then my pitch at one point in time, and it was, you basically said, I don't want this bit to overpower the things I actually have to say about
Right.
this movie.
Right.
My bit was the episode was 3 acts in 3 different time periods of doing this podcast with
Right.
3 different guests.
Yeah.
And we made the audio quality better as it went along.
Right.
And we treated the first act like we were in the closet at UCB. And then someone came in and canceled us and said, Danny Boyle miniseries over. It's a failure. And it had taken us 8 years to get to the final episode.
But thankfully, we settled on we're all wearing turtlenecks.
Yeah, and that
Yes,
works. It
yes.
works.
Right. So good.
And we're all wearing glasses.
Acid
We
wash
should have just
jeans.
all done mild Polish accents. Steve, what's the matter with you?
What? I've been doing the Polish accent the entire time. What are you
I
talking
swear
about?
this time I was kind of like, maybe it's just at its thickest in the first act.
Same.
I think that's
And by
what
the
it
last
is.
act, it's gone. And that's fine because she's lived in
That
America
is what I
15
thought.
more
And
years.
If
then it
you
comes
watch
on-
like a video of the real Joanna Hoffman, Kate Winslet is doing a good job.
Yeah.
It's just that it sounds weird
It
when
sounds
you see
like
Kate Winslet.
1 second before
Right.
filming, they were like, oh, and like kind of do like a Polish thing.
Well, there is that thing with people who are like deeply Americanized but haven't totally lost their accent, where it's not there in every syllable and it's in and out. I do agree with you though, David, that I was thinking the exact same thing, and then start of Act 3, it's really heavy, and you're like, well, this is where it starts to.
Because you need that great line about like the broad European tragedy of your life or whatever.
The-
It's just like,
the-
I'm not from a shtetl.
the broad
Yeah.
Eastern European canvas of your life.
But Act 2 is when.
She's kind of not even bothering. Sorry, Act 2. Yes, sorry, Act 2 at the San Francisco
Yes.
Opera House. The music is suddenly strings.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
she's not even
Guys.
bothering, but isn't that when she's, or is it Act 1 where Lisa says like I like the way you sound?
She says that to her in Act 1, and she replies, "Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever
Right.
said to me," which is very nice.
Yeah.
But no, Act 2. Obviously, it's the Opera House. They're launching the next.
Mhm.
Steve Jobs has been fired from Apple.
Mhm.
He's got this kind of slick back hair.
Mhm.
The brown contact lenses Michael Fassbender is wearing are suddenly really popping.
Yeah,
He looks kind of like a shark.
I have
Yes.
always contended he is a scary looking man.
He's
For
a
how
scary looking
handsome
guy.
he is.
Oh yeah.
He has a shark smile and he's got
Yes.
pointy teeth.
Yes, he's got pointy teeth. He
And
looks like Buffalo
especially
Bill.
when his eyes are blue, they look a little Too Blue?
Wait, not
Yes.
Buffalo Bill.
Who?
Who's the
What?
Manhunter one?
Oh, fucking. Oh God, why can I not
Tooth
remember?
Fairy. Tooth Fairy.
Thank
there
you.
you go. You know the other,
Dollar
the
High.
other Dollar
Yes,
High,
yes.
the other Hannibal
Yes.
villain. And so now Lisa's 9. Her relationship with Steve is clearly better.
That's 234 diamonds, by the way. Now I'm going to sync with the iPad, so I'll
Okay,
keep
that
people
sounds
updated. I'll get me at least 1 diamond box.
He is like chilled out on her a little bit.
They're better.
Yeah,
Right.
they're certainly better.
He is also in chilled out mode
Yes.
because as he slowly reveals, he basically knows this thing he's launching is basically just kind of like a test balloon. It's
Yeah.
not really
Right.
designed for commercial use.
It's designed to have an OS that does not exist
Yes,
yet.
it doesn't
that will
exist yet. I
eventually
mean,
get sold to Apple.
And this is, of course, when I start ranting to my wife about how if you look at Next OS, which is what eventually they did create for it, it is this.
Yeah.
It's this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that it's the first version of this, and it's still what you fucking use. And then I picked up my phone and I was like, he's everywhere.
And then you filed for divorce?
She filed for divorce.
Wow.
The internet was created on it.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
That is absolutely right.
Wow.
Tim Berners-Lee, who will be saluted in Danny Boyle's Olympic ceremony,
Wow.
used a Next computer to create the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Take that. Wait, who's the guy who did IBM? Bill Gates.
He's Microsoft, but sure, yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, in your
What's
face,
the fucking
Gates.
difference?
Well, they're very different. What do you mean?
All right, forget it.
Okay.
Cares.
So what happens in this act, Griffin? Like, what are the key? If Chris Ann seems a little more unstable this time.
Yes.
Jobs is kind of freaked out by just how weirdly she's using money. Says maybe she threw a cereal bowl at her daughter.
Right.
There's kind of the daughter seems much more unsettled.
The years-long sinus infection.
That begins here.
Yeah,
Right.
this is the start of
Right.
this. She needs
She
to
needs
see a doctor and a dentist. And he
yes.
says, I dropped out of college after 1 semester, but I'll give it a look.
Yes, which is funny. This is also the act in which he puts his feet in the toilet bowl, which is something that
That
Steve
is-
Jobs would really do.
It's so weird that is not explained. I mean, I
There's
get
a lot of things in this movie
Yeah.
that aren't really explained.
Mhm.
but it
Yes.
is like the first time you watch that movie, you're like, what the fuck is he doing? Like,
Yes. I
It
don't know.
feels like something someone who took too much LSD would do.
Which might be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
he took a lot of
he took a lot
LSD.
of
He took a
LSD.
lot.
He
Yeah.
took a lot.
So
I like that he flushes after he washes them. It's like,
yeah, good for him.
what'd you get in there? Another thing I like is when he's with Lisa alone in the dressing room in this movie, and they're talking about the cube, and she's
Yes.
measuring it with the ruler.
Right.
And she says, what did she say? If I had another ruler, I'd measure this ruler.
Right.
Which is a very Steve Jobs thing
It
to
is.
say.
It
And it's
is.
very like, oh, these two are more similar
Yes.
than he would
She's
like them to.
fascinated
And she's a little
by the-
Sorkin baby.
Yeah, she's a little
Right. She,
Sorkin
if she
kiddo.
can do the patter with him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's sort of explained to her, like, well, if it was actually a perfect cube, it would look weird. So it
Right.
has to be like this. And she's like, I don't know. My ruler needs a 20
It's that
cent
thing where
ruler,
he's
you
like,
know.
he's sending so many people away in annoyance for saying the wrong thing to him.
Right.
And she is actually combating him.
Right.
But he kind of tolerates it more because she's making like the Jobsian argument.
Right. She's getting in his head in
Right.
a way that,
Yeah.
right. But there's that tension. The big sort of thing that has to be fleshed out in flashback and argument is that John Scully ousted him.
Mhm.
/ the board ousted him, whatever. You know,
Mhm.
like that's the big showdown of this act is them
Yes.
screaming at each other in the room full of chairs.
Full of chairs.
Mhm.
Oh. When this scene starts, my
Yes.
heart starts racing.
Yes,
It's
go on.
so good. It's like, first of all, it looks silly at first
Yes.
with
The
the
chairs.
chairs. The
Many
chairs look
chairs.
silly, and then you realize you're in for like a verbal Western duel sort
Sure,
of thing where
right.
like they're far away from each other and they're coming in and then they're gonna just like fucking explode.
Jeff
at
Daniels
each
is going
other.
to dance on it.
He
Yeah.
dances on it.
He's gonna
He
dance
dances
on
on it. My shit is still somewhere in Shanghai.
Yeah.
Like
Right. The flashback with like the rain pouring
the
down the
rain is
window.
pouring, and they're in the dark room
And like
in
the
the
Dutch
boardroom.
angles, like from above, of
Ugh.
Jobs being like, "You can't fire me," you know,
Yes.
and Jeff Daniels being like, "Well, this guy's out of control."
It is a thing I think this movie does very well is the rare times it does cut away.
It knows when
does
to do
jump
it.
into a
Right.
brief flashback. It was and Jobs
In the garage.
arguing over the slots. You need to see the ousting. You need to see the dinner.
Yeah.
Basically, the restaurant in the third act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. Well, I guess the other major thing in Act 2 is why is Stolberg there? He shows up very briefly.
He shows up there.
He's just fooling around in the
Yeah.
back. He's like, oh, let me see the next.
He shows up to
Yeah.
show them the like Macworld
Right.
thing.
And that's
too.
right. It's that Joanna's like, wait a second, you're
Right.
trying to get back into Mac. Like,
Right.
That's what this is, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like,
But there's the lawsuit going on as well. That they keep on saying like, why are Waz and Stuhlbarg here? I don't know.
No, they're
He's
just
just
there.
mad that they're still at Apple. He's kind of been,
Sure.
and that was like when Steve got pushed out.
oh,
or
right. It's that
jumped,
Woz
Woz
dissed
gave
him
a
in the
quote.
press.
Yeah,
Right,
Woz gave
right.
a quote, and then
And he's like, Jeff Daniels made you do that.
yeah,
Right.
and then he tells Jeff Daniels, he's like, don't do that to Rain Man or whatever. He calls
Yes.
him Rain Man. He's like, I love that guy no
Right.
matter what happens.
Yeah.
Like you can't
He
send
can't
him to
slap
do that.
Right. That's the great scene with Woz, where Woz has the watch that has the two crazy tubes in it.
Love it. Yeah.
And
Flight
he's like,
attendant, this
explain
man
this
is
to
a
me.
bomb.
And
Yeah.
he's like, you don't understand. This is the future of tech.
Well,
And
right.
Steve Jobs is essentially like, do change one thing on it. He's like, it's fine. You
But
just need like a
that's-
screwdriver.
the fucking Job's genius.
That's what
It's
I'm saying.
like
It's a
he
great
sees what we
distillation.
need a thing to do, and B, he sees the flaws in
Yes.
other products of like the thing you're not thinking about that he can recognize immediately. This is the scene where fucking Roget takes it to the paint.
Sure.
I think
he takes it to the paint in the final act too.
yeah, I think this
Rogen
is
is-
for me.
To use Jeff Daniels' terms, he's dancing on it.
He's
in the
dancing on-
pit.
I get
yeah.
kind of choked up on this monologue just
The-
because I think there are ways in which his voice cracks.
Yeah,
Most of
yeah,
it
yeah.
plays out in a long shot.
He has such an expressive
They do
voice.
long sort of extended takes, but you're not going to close up of him. And so you're really feeling him build the momentum of the monologue in real time. Like they're letting the performance dictate the flow of the scene. The other thing, and maybe it's why I'm like so bullish on this performance, but I think it's so impressive. Rogen gets announced, and you're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. If you need to get a famous person to play Wozniak, sure, that sort of makes sense. How's he going to fit into the Sorkin thing, right?
Sure, right.
For someone who has such a specific rhythm of dialogue, right? Has his own comedy stylings, his own speed, his own way of talking. Most of the movies he's in, he writes himself.
Yeah.
Now, here's a guy who's got an entirely different clip. And Rogen also is a guy who like improvises a lot and riffs a lot and is not about precision acting. You know, it's like vibe, feeling it out, throwing stuff at the wall. And now it's like you have to deliver like a 5-page Sorkin monologue that just like builds and builds in intensity. But don't overplay it.
Yeah.
Part of the Sorkin thing is everything's a little bit tossed off. And it is that thing where as the speech goes on and he like starts revealing sort of his complicated relationship with this guy who he always has simultaneously loved and hated and he knows better than anyone else. And his breath starts like picking up and his voice starts cracking. I find it so heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
It's really moving.
Yeah.
It's like a really moving scene.
And he does have this guy pegged better than anyone else in the entire movie.
Because he knew him before
Right.
he was fully Steve Jobs.
Even better than
Yes.
Winslet, whose job is to like understand him on a day-to-day basis.
Well, but also,
Rogen's like, I know who you are at a core level.
Right. Winslet character Hoffman just has like bulletproof armor.
Right.
So all his nonsense, she's just like, yeah, okay. But
Yeah.
Now, Steve, Steve, please. But no, just to give you some, Rogen apparently really good at learning lines. Fassbender said he was jealous at how good Rogen was at mastering
Wow.
the dialogue. He was obsessed. He like obsessively watched lots of Wozniak footage
Yeah.
to try and get the
Hung
voice.
out with the real Woz a
Met
lot.
the real.
Yeah.
I love Steve Wozniak as a legend of computing. We could hang out with him. The guy's like accessible.
He went on Shark Tank to pitch a product that was so bad. He's like the opposite.
he was the one going up being like, sharks, I have an idea.
He was like one of the main investors in a product.
Oh,
And it was
okay.
the other guy's company, and he came in
Gotcha.
and was like advising against a deal. And the product was a jacket to hold all of your devices.
So just like a jacket with pockets?
But it was like it's designated pockets. So there's an inner pocket that is laptop sized.
God, he still
Why would you
hasn't
wanna carry
fucking
your
learned.
This
laptop
is
on
exactly,
your
but
person?
he'll never learn.
He'll
'Cause that's
never
what he's
learn.
like.
Yeah, it was and he was like, I fully believe this is the future of
Right.
technology. And Mark Cuban was kind of impressed. Woz is there, is like, Woz, come on.
You're like, what are you talking about, man?
And then this guy is like, I have 5 patents. And he's like, what the fuck are your patents? And he's like, to run cables for devices in the lining of fabric.
cool.
Sick.
Sure.
And Cuban is like, this is exactly what's wrong with America. I cannot believe they would give you a patent for that. And the guy's
Right.
like, well, can you blame me? And he's like, I do blame you. Fuck you. Get out of here.
You guys know Woz used to date Kathy Griffin, right?
Hell yeah.
Oh.
That rules.
It was kind of a feature of her TV show, My Life on the D List. He was on it a lot.
a classic show. I think of him as just like the classic
He's just around.
Hawaiian shirt guy.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks he's fun.
He was on Dancing with the Stars.
You know,
Yeah.
he's cheerful. One thing Rogan says that's interesting is like none of this dialogue is written as someone who has now studied Steve Wozniak
Right.
is written in his voice. Obviously,
No.
it's
Sure.
Sorkin is Sorkin for
Yeah.
you know, but you know he's you know saying all these things that clearly you know are part of the drama of Steve Wozniak.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. And
Josh Gad played this part.
Yes.
In the
he sure did.
Yes, he did.
Picture movie?
You know, Rogan doesn't really look like Wozniak at all, but I do like this Boyle quote where he's basically like, there is something essentially Woz-like about
Yes.
him, right? You know, it's like the vibe is right.
He's
Yes.
like a cheery
Yeah.
guy with bearded guy with like a rounder build. This was before Seth Rogen really like trimmed down too.
Yeah, he's kind of mid-trim.
He's still
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, he had trimmed more for Green Hornet
Yeah.
and then kind of
Right.
get a little more back to
And
normal.
now he's like svelte.
Now he's like a svelte vegan who does pottery, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And is like low key. I mean, he's always been hot.
But also,
hot.
his beard is huge in this movie. I
Yes.
feel like he
Yeah.
did a
Big,
really
bushy
good
beard.
job.
And he's got
of,
big
like,
hair.
He's
and
trying to
like,
get
yeah.
his whole head rounder, like real was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But yes, yeah, the Skylab monologue with the Skylab going by,
Mhm.
and I do think about Skylab all the time. That we shot it into space, and we were like,
We'll figure it out.
probably know how to get it back. We'll invent how to get it back, right? And then just that's what next is. And but yes, he sees Apple's failure in the horizon, and he sees their need for him on the horizon, and it's all going to come back together. And the
Sure.
third act is them launching the iMac.
Mhm.
He has finally achieved everything he's wanted.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the both sides now conversation at all? Or should we?
forgot to talk about this.
I love that. I love when he says it's not a really old song unless I'm a really old guy.
I love that too. So, right, that is the crucial thing we've not talked about in the second act is that, of course, he tries to engage with her.
Yes.
What are you listening
on
to?
Joanna's advice, he's
Yes.
like, I'm going to talk to her about her things. And she explains that she's listening to a song.
A really old song.
Two versions of the same really old song.
Right. Now, what do we think the two versions are?
Well, the first one is Joni Mitchell.
One assumes. One of them is the Joni Mitchell
But
version.
that's the later one. The original Both Sides Now is I have it here. Hold on, because I listened
Judy
to that.
Collins.
Yes,
That's right. And that is the girlier version.
Right.
Yes.
That's
and,
That she is referring
and Joni
to.
Mitchell's
Yes.
is regretful.
Yes.
You're too young to be regretful.
So the second time I saw was that when she says that, and then she comes and hugs him and says she wants to live with him.
That part
really
really breaks my
devastating.
heart.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
It's
like
tough.
your mom is like difficult, but it's
Yeah.
like so is your dad. But like going to him and saying that is like heartbreaking.
Well, seeing how awful.
He's more protective of her at this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
He's always making up for mistakes from the last time.
Yeah.
So this time he's giving them money. He's giving them security, but now
Right.
he's like, oh God, you live with her and she's crazy.
Mhm.
And he doesn't know how to deal with that. Right.
Yeah.
And in the next one, he finally is like, do you want to watch backstage with me? You know, like he's doing things that she wants to do in the second act, like in the third act. Like,
I'll say this too. I mean, just going back to Ben's question of like, how is it possible? Like, how does he fucking deny her for this
he
long?
doesn't. Like,
No,
he
no.
just will deny things.
Well,
like,
this is what I'm
you
saying. It's
know,
so much about his like
while supporting her and seeing her and you know,
his
like-
own sense of myth making around himself.
Right.
He doesn't want to accept the elements that aren't part of the narrative that he thinks helps the idea of what Steve Jobs is.
Like he tells Scully in the last bit, I think it's all about control.
Right.
It's all about control. And
Right.
he has no control over this like aspect of his life.
And-
Right,
but
and I
over
th-
himself.
yeah.
Because he's poorly made.
Yes.
Well, that line destroys me. But I think more than like the denial of the daughter, it's like he doesn't want to acknowledge having been with Chris Ann to a degree.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
No, that's embarrassing for him too. That's true. Yes.
He doesn't want to have to be associated with her for the rest of his life
Right.
through the kid.
But he is.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So the third act is Davie Symphony Hall. They're
Mhm.
doing the iMac. You see him doing the run of show.
Turtleneck,
He's
round
got
glasses,
the turtleneck. Now, of course,
hair
he did not
graying.
actually wear the turtleneck.
He's wearing like a dumpy suit in real life.
Correct.
Just like a
But
dumpy
they,
three-piece
Boyle
suit.
and Fassbender were both like, he needs to fucking wear the Steve Jobs.
You need to end
uniform
it with him
in the
looking
It would
like Steve
look
Jobs.
ridiculous if he was. Look up what he was actually
looks bad.
wearing.
It looks so
let's
bad.
see.
It would look so bad if he actually wore that in the movie.
I mean, Act 2's suit's pretty dumpy.
oh, the,
so they
the
get
like
it in.
double-breasted number.
And the
Yeah,
fucking
and it's
Tucker
like
Carlson
clearly
bow
not
The bow
tie.
tie in
tailored
one,
at all. It's like
Yeah.
hanging over his shoes.
It's not great.
No.
His pants.
But yes, and we see him doing. I like that we finally see a minute of the keynote from this one, just as he's rehearsing it. So you see the iMac,
Yeah.
you see the video,
You see him practicing.
exactly,
Right.
and you see because we never actually see the keynotes because we're
Rehearsing.
cutting right before.
Yes.
And you see the lights going to black. And what was different about it this time?
I liked
Sarah
that.
Snook.
Sarah
That felt
Snook
cool.
actually turned the exit signs off, which
Yeah.
is definitely not true.
Sorry.
legal. Yes,
I'm looking at the suit. And it
It's
started
dumpy,
to play.
right?
I mean it's 1998.
Yeah. Wow.
Did you have an iMac? Anyone have an iMac?
No.
Okay, cool.
I had one.
yeah.
What color was it?
It was blue.
The original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that day. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
I had a computer in my room.
Whoa, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was never allowed in my house. I wanted like a little TV in my room, and my parents were like, absolutely not.
Good parents.
Okay,
Mm.
so this is a very like 90s kids thing, but did you guys
Are
have
you
a
saying that
computer?
Have snap
90s kids
bracelets?
would understand this?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what.
Sorry. We're both rushing.
Did
for
you
different
guys have a
jokes.
computer room?
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's not a room anymore for people.
No.
No, but I know we didn't, but of course most of my friends did. Yes, like right. It's like not a den, not an office.
No,
sort
it's
of
a
in
room for the
between.
Right.
computer.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like
And
where
there's,
you
like,
and your
some-
friends go to play like Freddy Fish together.
It used to be
Right.
called
Yeah.
the family room, and then it became the computer room,
Yeah.
which is
Go
kind
play
of the
Flight Simulator. Yeah.
Freddie Fish, good pull.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a computer room?
Oh,
John
yeah,
Sam,
absolutely.
was that
But
his
but
I
but
think so,
wait,
yeah.
at what age did you get the iMac in your room? Because I got my computer in my room when I was 15.
You guys all had computers in your
I-
room?
Olivia, I pulled a heist because my parents also were like, no TV in your room, absolutely not,
Mhm.
and a no computer. But then when I became the editor of my high school
Oh,
newspaper,
damn.
I was like, well, now I need one.
You need it for
because
school.
Sure.
I need to work on it at home. And they were
Sure.
like, okay, we'll get you like a Dell,
Yeah.
like a desktop computer. And I was like, yeah, Oscar forums,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
MSN Messenger.
Yeah.
What a little dork I was.
I think my grandparents got me a Sony Vaio when I was in high school.
Wow, like James Bond.
Like James Bond.
It is funny that Sony wanted to make this movie when it is about one of their
I
great
know.
competitors.
Yeah.
You never had a computer in your room.
No, but I think I got a laptop
Sure.
at some point
Right.
when I was like 16 maybe, and
Yeah.
that was in my
Right.
room.
Right. That was
I
my
got
deal.
it at 13.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
immediately got into trouble
Yep,
with stuff.
absolutely.
Oh, no.
Yep.
And I'm not going to define what that is,
Okay.
but it could be
It could be a lot of things.
Various different
Various things. Yeah.
Yeah. But wow, was the internet the Wild West in those days?
sure
The
was.
The
Yeah.
internet
Just
was
find
really
anything.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
You
was.
could really
crazy.
just, oh my God.
Duty.com. Remember that?
I've seen a lot of
Oh.
the most
But I
fucked
can
up shit
imagine.
in my life in like the 2000s
Oh.
era of the internet on
yeah.
the family computer in the computer room, praying my parents weren't like around the corner.
But that was also the era where people would like come up to you and be like, "Do you know there's bad shit on the internet?" You'd be
Right.
like, "No
Or-
way,
or
show
they,
me."
like-
normal.
Or they'd
Yeah.
like send you a random link over AIM,
Right.
and then you'd click it, and it'd be the most vile shit you've
But
ever
that's
seen
the
in
thing.
your
Now
life.
we know there's
Yeah.
bad shit out there, so we work hard to avoid it. Back then, you were almost like, "How
You're
bad
like,
can it
what?
get?"
Is that allowed?
What do you mean?
God, remember chainmail?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also, do you remember physical chainmail? I got
No.
physical chain letters. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Fuck
I thought you were
that.
talking about the night stuff.
Bad.
That too.
That's how old David is that's the kind of chainmail he
Y'all-
was talking
y'all
about.
remember Dazzles?
That stuff's heavy.
Apple just called me really freaky.
Mm.
What?
Really?
My pair of headphones have been fixed or whatever. I
Mm.
believe that's what they're telling me. Okay, so the key dramas here.
Sure.
Steve's in a fight with Lisa
Mhm.
over her college tuition because her mother sold the house he bought for them.
He's
being a
And
petty
he kind
little
of lashed
bitch.
out
the money.
and
Yes.
is not paying. And so Andy sent them a check.
Andy sent them a check
What a
in a move
sweetheart.
that is kind of half sweet, half kind of a passive aggressive.
Sure.
Yeah, you know.
But I
Yeah.
also think it like really reinforces the fact that like Chris Ann there's a world
Yes.
outside of Steve
That's like
where
we're
people are
aware
talking
that
to each
Steve
other.
is a very difficult father
Yes.
figure.
Right.
Right. You know, and there's this whole terse conversation where Andy's like, yes, I did recommend she go into therapy. And yes, it was partly because she does not have like a male
And she would love
figure
if
in
you
her
and Chris
life.
Ann joined her,
Mhm.
which sounds like the worst hour of my life.
Yeah, seriously. If I'm the therapist, I'm like jumping out the window like fucking Max von Sydow.
Winslet reveals
Sorry, Jason Miller. What?
that the magazine cover,
Yes.
it was a sculpture of a computer.
She
What is it?
kind of like does a thing where she's like, they didn't switch that in at the last minute.
Right.
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 yeah.
You never were person of the year.
Yeah. She and him have a really like when they're in that dressing room have a really
So-
great like tete-a-tete moment
This is-
where she forces him to like figure shit out with Lisa.
It's another moment that makes me cry.
Mm.
It's when he's being such a baby about Lisa.
Yes.
And then she starts pushing the
That was-
stupid Apple profile
Yeah.
pictures of geniuses
that
Mhm.
part is a little
onto the ground. No, you don't like that?
I just think it whenever someone like throws shit off of a desk in a movie, I'm like, okay.
I just like that she knows that will upset
Yes,
him.
yeah.
He's like my Alan Turing 9x4s or whatever.
Well,
And-
that's sorry. There's that moment too where John Ortiz asks him who the picture is, and it's Alan
Of Alan
Turing,
Turing, yeah,
and he
sure.
goes, "But he's not part of the campaign. Why? Because I just had to explain to you who he was."
Right. But Steve Jobs was obsessed with Alan Turing.
Of course.
Yes, as the urban legend goes, the Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But
are you talking about the moment where she says being a father is supposed to be the
yes,
best
it's
thing
with,
in someone's
with
life?
tears in her eyes. It's this sort of weird. Obviously, this is a movie about press conferences, but still, she's like with tears in her eyes. Like,
America's greatest pastime.
Right. I have been the guilty party to this. I have
Yes.
been like silently enabling you for all these years, and I'm so guilty about it because you're such a horrible father. And like, I've been watching you be a bad dad, right? Like that's basically what she's saying.
Yes.
But yes, when I cry is when she says what you make isn't supposed to be the best of you. When you're a father, that's what's supposed to be the best of you.
And for you, it's the worst is the last part of that line.
And it's so
Oh.
clearly like right out of Sorkin's like brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like so
What was her personal life like in real?
she's like a fucking chiller. The chillest chiller. You want me to look her up?
Yeah.
She's the daughter of an incredible Polish director.
Okay.
Jersey Hoffman, I believe is his name.
Does she have like
Yeah.
kids in a family?
She has
of
2
her own?
kids in a
Yeah.
family.
Okay,
She's
okay.
an absolute fucking chiller. Sorry.
Cool. You're getting choked up thinking about her being a chiller.
My voice is like so destroyed.
Yeah.
No, married to Alain Rossmann, a native of France who worked at the Mac team.
Okay.
She has 2 sons with him. I'm seeing here that she is extraordinarily rich, just like pretty much every character in this movie, because of the profits of Apple.
It is a funny thing when like the schlubby guys are kicking around the background and you have to think like, oh right, like Michael Stolberg has the money to pay for her.
Right. He
her-
can
because,
just
like, they're
write off
all
a check
fucking
for
rich.
$25,000.
All
and it
these
doesn't
guys
fucking
They all
matter.
ground
cashed out their
level.
Yeah.
Apple stock that
Right.
they got when they worked in a garage or whatever.
Right.
And then from then on, it's like, oh, you worked on the first Macintosh. You are guaranteed any job you want in
Right,
like
for the
this
rest of your
world.
life.
If
Yeah.
you want it.
Yeah.
Or you can just do dumb startups.
That's what Kate Winslet says. She says, you
I
can find me
love
at my
that
next
shit.
job doing
Working
literally whatever I want.
Whatever
Yeah.
I want. I do. The real Joanna Hoffman hates Facebook.
Mm.
This is a quote on her
Okay.
on her
Mm.
Wikipedia page.
Slay of her.
She says that it is destroying the very fabric of democracy, the very fabric of human relationships, and peddling an addictive drug called anger.
Go off, queen.
So I feel like she's kind of like, the conscience that she shows in this movie.
Am I wrong for remembering that it's in the Isaacson book that like at the end of his life, Jobs was like, iPhone might have been a step too far, that he had a little bit of regret sort of on that same
Interesting.
vein of like,
I don't know.
we might have given people too much. Like,
He's definitely resistant to the iPhone
right.
and doesn't like he is worried that it's like literally just like not gonna like function if that makes sense. But
but
I'm not.
that
I can't remember if
sort
he's
of,
like societally worried.
it encouraged
Yeah.
antisocial behavior after
Right,
most of
right.
his devices were, in theory, him working towards this
Right.
idea of greater
Yeah,
connectivity. I just think there's something to that,
Yeah, no, for
you're,
sure.
you're marching further and further to this point, and then you get to the place where you give people too much, and it almost
But
sours everything.
I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like his thing with the iPhone was more also just. I mean, look, the movie BlackBerry is coming out this year. Great film. Which is another film along these lines about technology. But obviously, it's what's so fun about it and so Canadian about it. It's a very Canadian film. Is it's about these guys who made a thing that worked and then kind of got sucked into like, well, it's got to be exactly like this forever.
Yeah.
And, eventually like the world races ahead of them.
Mhm.
And you think about it now where you're like, why the fuck would we not want this to be the screen?
Yeah.
Why would just the top bit be the
Yes.
screen and the rest be like, and apparently that was what Jobs was always like. He's like, what the fuck is this keyboard?
But do you remember, I mean, because it was years of them being like, Jobs wants to fix the phone. That's his new focus.
That was his thing. He would look at the other products and be like, no, like that's not what that should be like.
Right. And then they finally reveal it and you're like, how do I
use this
dial?
Yeah.
Right.
You just touch it with your finger.
What the
Your
fuck
fingers.
are you talking about?
I remember when the iPhone came out, I was like, all right.
Creepy.
Enough.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna do this. That's not gonna
Remember
won't
when
ever.
apps were just like you can pour a beer? It looks like you're pouring a beer with your phone.
Yeah.
better times.
Those were what apps were.
That's what apps were.
That's
Fart. I used to have an app called Fart that just had a button. You push it, made a fart sound.
We all had that app. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic app.
Classic app. That was the most advanced app.
And those were the days.
And remember podcasts?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Do you remember, we used to have to listen to podcasts on our iPods.
I'm gonna put 1,000 podcasts in your pocket. Don't do that.
Get him out of here. My dad, every time I see my dad, he goes like, how many hours have you guys done now? The one thing he wants
Have
to
you
quantify.
ever tallied it up?
No, because I'm like, I could tell you how many episodes it is. I like offhand, it's like 400, whatever. And he's like,
That's scary.
but he's like, but like, how
I'm-
many hours? Is it like 10,000 hours? You got like 20,000 hours?
I'm sure one of your listeners will tally it all
in
up.
response to this.
Yes, and it will be kind of a horrifying
I know.
number for
It's
you
just
guys.
funny that's the thing when he like talks to other adults. He wants to be like, my son has over
He wants to
20,000
prove
hours.
you're a Gladwell-esque
Yeah.
expert in podcasting.
500,000 hours of evergreen.
So, in the third act,
Yeah.
he reconciles with John Scully, who
Sure.
shows up, and they kind of talk it out, and he
Mhm.
confesses, like, I've always been in my head about my own adoption, right? The lack of control there. He talks
Sure.
about how he eventually did discover his real father. They can't even get into the fact that the way it all worked was Mona Simpson, who is herself famous,
Yeah.
a famous novelist,
Yeah.
wrote Anywhere But Here, wrote a
Yes.
bunch of
Yes.
books. The character Mona Simpson in The Simpsons
I
is
was
named
going to say,
after
Ben,
her.
do you know this?
She was married to a Simpsons writer, so Homer's mother is named after her, Mona Simpson.
Oh, no.
Steve Jobs' real biological sister, who he connected with later in life and then led him to his biological father.
His parents had Steve Jobs. His mother puts him up for adoption. Her father dies, and he is the one who's kind of against them being married because Steve Jobs' biological father is a Syrian immigrant who's Muslim. And so her father dies, they get married, they have another kid who they keep.
Mona.
Wow.
And
Which
she
is-
eventually finds Steve.
Yes, she eventually finds Steve, and they know, but he doesn't tell his dad.
He doesn't, but he realizes, I know who that is.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, your dad is this Syrian restaurateur. And
He
he's
used to
like, oh,
brag
I
about the
fucking know
fact.
that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And he used to brag about how Steve Jobs
Yeah.
comes into my restaurant. And he never met him. But then eventually the dad figured it out. You can read all about it. It's
But anyway,
heartbreaking
Mona
in a
Simpson
weird-
was married to a Simpsons writer, and they named Homer's mom after her.
Yeah, the most important part of that.
Yeah.
They can't even get into all that. But clearly, this is so much a part of why he seeks control in all parts of his life, according to Aaron Sorkin, armchair psychologist.
Look, I'm all for Aaron Sorkin's pop psychology thing
me too.
because it's like your job isn't to do the factual accounting of the person's life. Your job is to find the story to tell and
Yes.
the idea of what they represent or what they did. It's what you said very well, Olivia, which is just like I don't want a fucking biopic in the form of a cinematic Wikipedia entry.
Yeah, him
I
like
want you to
an apple
find
fucking falling on
A
his head.
story to tell me.
And this story is about children and parents and parents and children, and it's like
adapting any other work. Like if you're adapting real historical events, it's like, no, you find the angle. What's the story you want to tell in this piece of material?
Griff, you wouldn't love a little Pixar? Just
Of course.
a little Pixar?
Do you know?
Just a sprink?
Do you know that obviously Bale and DiCaprio were the first choice at Sony for Steve Jobs. The first choice for Wozniak was Mike Wazowski. And his quote was too high.
you really went down that runway.
Yeah.
Really
he was
took
really.
off.
It was like when in an old fashioned movie, someone shoots you with a musket and misses, and then they're sort of hastily.
It takes so long. I'm gonna get here. I'm gonna get here.
Get it back in the. All right, here we go. I gotta shoot you again.
I'll do a little behind the scenes here. I was worried about fucking up the name because Woz and Wazowski are so similar. I was like,
part of the
If you
joke.
had said Mike Wozniak,
I was like, I need to give myself some more runway to make sure I actually land this. If I'd said Mike Wozniak, I would have been chased out of this studio. I would retire
into a puddle.
Yeah.
Okay. The movie ends with the scene we've already discussed. Him apologizing to Lisa. The computer was named after you.
Of course.
Uh,
He kept
And
the
then-
painting.
and then she gets to watch from backstage
She does.
something she has not done up until that point. That he always gets her
Yeah.
out of the building
Yes.
before that can happen.
But also, she leaves richer than she showed up because she leaves with a dream of one day having 1,000 songs
She also gets
in her pocket.
a printout of her painting.
Of course,
Oh.
the whole time.
But
The way you just see it through the light in that
That's a
shot
good Boyle
is
move
so
to not cut
smart.
to
yeah,
the-
there's
Yeah,
no
I need to
insert
cut to,
shot
like,
of it.
Yeah.
You know
Danny
what it
Boyle's
is.
hand holding it. Shit, we forgot to get in. Okay, here we go.
My hand.
But I think this ending is controversial, especially literally the last beats of it. The song by the Maccabees, which is a really nice song.
Mhm.
Danny Boyle picked it, obviously. The da-da-da-da-da, you know. And him like bathed in this like heavenly light from the flash bulbs, right? And kind of like reaching out to her,
Yeah.
and the music's soaring, and people are like, "What's this cheesy happy ending?" But he's also like far from her.
Yeah.
And then he turns to like come
Yes.
closer, and then he turns back
To
to,
the
the audience.
Godlike, kind of mysterious, kind of unknowable.
Well, this is what I want to needle you on. Not needle you in it. Needle's the wrong word, but I want to tease out of you. I feel like you've made a lot of offhand references over the years when I hear you talk about this movie, both on and off mic, about this movie being about like humanity trying to speak to God.
Well, or like it's like he's like a modern godlike figure in a
Sure.
weird way, right? Because again, it's like you can't even just be like, yeah, he invented the fucking light bulb. And you're like, great, I know what a light bulb is.
Right.
Good job by him. Like,
Right.
you know, it's like, wow, he spearheaded many important things. He's a godlike figure because it's like he became this weird icon of like post-religious society, right?
Yeah. Well,
His fucking face
yes.
is like iconic.
You know what's one of the weirdest things?
I don't.
I want you to guess. No. he dies, right?
Yeah,
We're all
he
talking
does.
about like, it was somewhat sudden.
Right.
The book suddenly comes out so soon after. My memory is like within 3 days of him dying, New York City was just like papered
Yeah.
with
You're
billboards,
absolutely right.
taxi cab ads, subway ads.
His face.
His face, like, gone but never forgotten, years of his life, whatever. It was like so quick that suddenly it felt like all of New York City was like Apple spending money to memorialize him.
And it's like if Bill Gates died,
Yes.
the same thing would not happen.
No, there would be
People would be like,
obituaries that were
yes,
long,
there would be, like,
and
long,
a consideration
thoughtful-
of
important
his
historical
legacy.
figure, but there's
but
not
we're
a
not
cult of
papering
personality.
his
No.
face all
No.
over the city.
And also there'd be a lot of Epstein jokes.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
But this is what I'm saying, where Steve Jobs has this somewhat mythic figure.
Yes.
And this whole movie is about like trying to talk to this godlike figure who is also this like petty,
Sure.
difficult man.
Yeah.
And like I just love the constant what do you call it? What's this? Tension of that.
Tension.
I'm losing my words. We've been recording for 3 hours, right,
Yeah.
Benny?
Almost.
And hey, we're gonna sell some ads on this one.
Oh, boy.
Apple?
Apple.
Oh my God. I didn't even think of that.
I don't think
Yeah.
they're interested. They made efforts to like kind of shut this movie down.
Sorkin and Tim Cook were kind of beefing
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah, they
when
kind
this-
of had a war of
yeah.
words.
Linux? Can we get Linux? No,
Yeah,
but
right.
Tim,
I'll call tech support and I'll pitch it to them.
Right. Microsoft Edge.
Tim Cook is a great example of like you sense the immediate shift
Yeah, no one's like, I love Tim Cook.
Right.
What kind of a freak loves Tim Cook?
People are still in on
I think
Apple
he's
products.
all right. Yeah,
but
sure.
the Tim Cook, there's no thing there in the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other people like Jobs who have that weird status in our society.
Can't think of one,
but there's not a lot. Yeah.
Sure.
And yeah, well, I mean, Elon Musk, God don't bless him.
Sure.
But he was sort of angling for that.
He was angling
really
for that,
wanted to do
but
that.
and then
the
he made a
difference
couple
is,
crucial errors.
is that he's a fucking
Unforced
idiot.
errors. Yeah.
And then
He's
Steve
dumb.
Jobs, what for whatever he wasn't an idiot.
Well,
Yeah.
he wasn't as good a poster, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I mean, sure.
Well, there's also the line in this movie of like, I don't want people to think I'm an asshole. I just don't care what they think or whatever he says. Which is like the exact opposite of Elon Musk, which is, please
Yeah.
like me. I want you to find me funny.
I think he says
made a little joke.
I think Jobs says he's indifferent to whether or not
Yes.
people like him, and then
Right.
Hertzfeld says, "Well, for what it's worth, I never did."
I don't want people to dislike me. I'm indifferent to whether they dislike me.
Musk could not care more.
That guy? Are you really sure? He cares what people think of him?
Yeah. LOL. I find it so funny that you're triggered. I don't care at all.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Sithifrican's kind of a hard one.
Yep.
Sithifrican.
Yes. But right. And like then just the idea of us being like, why are you like this? And him being like, I'm poorly made. Like, and I don't like that either, which
Yeah.
is why I'm trying to build you perfect, beautiful things. Why don't you like my perfect, beautiful things?
Yeah,
I'm
that-
poorly
and by the end
made
of the
is
movie,
like
it's
the
like-
best line in this.
When
movie.
Sorkin,
it's like
when Sorkin wrote that, he poured himself a glass of scotch and had a great wank.
Yeah.
Just a great one.
Yes.
He must have been so proud of himself. It's so good.
and nothing he puts his
I guess
fingers
he
to.
doesn't drink.
Nothing else he does is
Does
poorly
not.
made.
No.
Jobs doesn't do poorly made things,
No.
but he himself
Can't fix
is
it.
poorly made.
Can't fix it. And he also knows it. It's that question. What could be so wrong in me at a month?
Right.
And Jeff Daniels is like, nothing.
Nothing.
You're
Yeah,
obsessed with it. He's like, it's factual.
It's like something.
I mean, like-
I did something
I
wrong
got
as
turned
a
back
1
in.
month old
I'm
baby.
poorly made.
Right. And of course, Jeff Daniels maybe could have butted in with another line and being like, it's very stressful to have a 1 month old. Maybe they just couldn't handle it. I
Right.
mean, there's a lot of things but no, it's all part of the metaphor. It's a beautiful movie.
Poorly
Oh
made.
God, it's such a beautiful movie. Maybe I'll watch it again.
So
I did watch it last night and then again this morning just to make sure I didn't.
Oh,
Watching it
yeah.
back to back is a great experience.
Oh, yeah.
You'll pick up on a little something new every time.
This was one of those movies where it had a good, even with some of the pushback, it had a good like sort of launch at the festivals. And then they're putting it out in limited release. I remember playing maybe only at Lincoln Square here in New York, and maybe it was 2 theaters, but I feel like it opened in like one New York, one LA. Is that possible?
Very possible.
I just remember limited series of showtimes that opening weekend, and I saw that there was like one ticket available late on Friday night, and I was like, you know what? I'm just so eager to see this fucking thing and join the discourse after I've been reading people write reviews of this for the last 2 months. I'm gonna go see this now, and then felt pretty deflated by it at that time, but it was like jam-packed, sold out, the kind of like insane per screen average opening, and people were like, well, it's gonna be another hit, and then weekend 2 done. It was one of those
they
things where like,
expanded it very quickly,
Yeah.
which is probably a mistake.
And it's also something that I think Boyle says is a mistake.
Yeah.
He's like, they kind of fucked it up on release and it shouldn't have gone that quickly.
but that first
Um,
weekend people were like, oh, the excitement for this is huge. People are dying to see this
I
fucking
was
thing.
like, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Really?
weird. It's expansion weekend.
Because
The
what was
Martian is crushing.
the per screen that first weekend?
43,000.
And how many screens?
4 screens.
Four.
Sorry,
Yeah, I think it was too near till.
Sorry, it's 130,000 per screen average.
Yeah, it's humongous. Right.
But yeah, it's just, when it goes wide, it goes to 7 million.
Mhm.
Kind of disappointing. It's opening. It goes wide to number 7 below Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension,
Yeah.
The Last Witch Hunter. Not a bad movie.
Not a bad movie. A movie that's actually much like Steve Jobs, grown better with age.
But did they expand it too quickly? Maybe. I
Yeah.
think the public was just like,
Yeah.
enough with this guy, and not grabbed enough by the names in the cast.
It is the funny thing for
And the
all,
reviews were like positive, but not rave.
for all the hand wringing about getting this movie made and all the emails of like, we can't make it for this budget, we can't make it with this actor. It's like they were all proven right commercially.
Yeah.
All the concerns were valid.
But
If you want to read a really good rave of this movie, A.O. Scott wrote one for the Times
genius.
that is very, very good. And is like, is this movie as like formally perfect as The Social Network? No, but that gives it this like humanistic edge to it that makes it like something else entirely. Like comparing the two isn't going to do anyone any favors, but this is a great movie.
Talking of other film critics, the great Michael Phillips, who was once A.O. Scott's co-host on the last respectable version of At the Movies.
Yeah.
They had him on our buddies' Film Spottings episode on the Sight and Sound Top 10, where he was talking about his own top 10 and how he came up with it. And he said this thing that stuck with me that I really liked, where he was like, I don't know if I have a single film on my top 10 that I think is a perfect movie, but that maybe speaks to my love of films that have some power without needing to be formally perfect.
Right.
And there was something I appreciated of him just admitting that, where he's like, I recognize perfect movies, but I'm not going to go off the criteria of the 10 most perfectly made films
right,
are the 10 best. I'm like, I can prefer movies with flaws that somehow achieve some greater thing.
Totally agree, Michael. My National Society of Film Critics colleague. Just saw him. Great
Humble
guy
brag.
at the meeting. Great guy. Yeah, box office game. It opened number 16, 4 screens.
Okay.
October 9th, 2015.
So is this first weekend of The Martian?
Second.
Wow. Martian was
Martian
so
is
big.
The Martian was a
Russian.
huge fucking
Did Martian
movie.
do 250 domestic?
228.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Big.
Bring him home.
Bring him home.
And you know what?
I can't stop laughing.
Of course, the funniest movie of the year.
So funny.
It won the Golden Globe for
Remember when we
All
got
right.
stuck on Mars?
It was pretty funny. There's
has
like
to-
a whole poop bit.
He has to make potatoes
Potatoes.
out of his fertilizer.
Gotta listen to all that disco music. Look, my TikTok, and I've tweeted about this.
Sure.
My TikTok has recently decided, rather than show me the work of America's darling influencers or its young babies, it showed me
Sure.
a lot of babies back in the day, pets,
Great.
hilarious fails.
I've talked about it. I
whatever.
only get impressionists.
Sure, you get old school impressionists. I did recently get a clip of Jimmy Stewart on the Carson show, which was amazing. Like old Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
Mostly now it's just like, do you just want a 3-minute clip from like a movie from the 2010s that appeals to dads? And
Obviously.
I'm like, and the thing with TikTok is if you watch it, then it'll
They're
be like, you likey.
Yeah.
And
You
I'll
want
just
more?
be like, oh, it's just Captain Phillips. What's he
Wait,
doing?
okay. I recently,
So, and now it just shows me
I got
these
like the
things.
last scene of Captain Phillips on TikTok recently, and I was like, yeah,
You're
Let me
just
watch it.
immediately like,
not his blood.
So, like, Sully,
Uh-huh.
Spotlight.
Do you like Sully?
That guy saved so many souls. Captain Phillips.
Yeah.
The Martian.
Yeah.
And I've been recently watching some Martian clips, and I'm like, this is pretty good. I should rewatch The Martian.
rewatch
It's
the
like
Martian.
it's an entertaining movie.
Highly
Also,
entertaining.
It's so
What a
entertaining.
bug nuts cast. When you step
Crazy
back and you're
cast.
like, Kristen Wiig. And
Donald Glover's in that
Donald
movie.
Glover.
Guess who's in
Benedict
that movie?
Wong, Jeff Daniels dancing
Jeff
on the
Daniels.
dialogue.
Exactly. He's
Doing-
back.
Doing a little soft
Being
shoe.
like, well, I don't know if NASA would approve of that. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't like.
The Martian, a celebrated hit based on a bestseller, directed by a good director, Best Picture nominee, Matt Damon being a movie star. What's not to like?
Yeah.
Number 2 at the box office in its 3rd week, an animated comedy. We've
Okay.
covered it on this podcast.
Covered it on this podcast. Is it Hotel Transylvania 2?
Dos.
Mm.
The weakest, but still a strong hotel.
Well, you say
strong
the
trip.
weakest. Someone has not seen Transformania.
I have not. That's absolutely true. I have not seen Hotel Transylvania 4. Olivia Craighead,
Yes.
my dear friend.
Yes.
Have you seen any of the Hotel
Have you
Transylvania
checked
films?
into the Hotel T?
Maybe I've seen the first one.
Well, you know where you should
and
also
I was
see.
like kind of charmed by
Yeah.
it.
I
I
got a couple other stays to recommend for you.
I've
in that case.
and you know what? I remember either seeing the trailer or seeing the poster for the one where they're on a cruise ship, and I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Just like the conceit of it, I was like,
they got to
I'm
take
laughing.
a vacation from their vacation.
Right? It's like high concept. I was like, you know what? That's
Olivia,
probably great.
do you know what happens on that cruise ship?
What happened?
A lot of funny stuff.
What? Oh,
What
oh,
doesn't
boy.
happen?
Oh,
Blobby
God.
gets up to
Blobby.
some stuff.
Big
Whoa.
puppy.
Maybe I gotta go take a cruise.
Oh, the big puppy.
Yeah.
Check out Hotel Transylvania. You can honestly jump to 3.
I was
Okay.
no, I actually think it's gonna be really hard to track the plot of 3 if you don't see 2.
Number 3 at the box office.
Yeah.
Clearly hoping to have been the number 1 movie. It's
Mhm.
new this week. It's
Okay.
It's a children's action adventure fantasy film based on a classic text.
Based on a classic
It
text.
is the definition of an absolute fucking blank check bouncing all the way across the world.
So it's not Wrinkle in Time, but it's that kind of thing.
Were they still
Yes.
making like Narnias at this point?
I mean, who knows? But it's not an Narnia.
Okay.
But you're
Is this a first book?
it's
one book?
It's a classic work.
Is it Pan?
It is Pan.
Joe writes Pan.
Joe
Joe
writes
writes
Pan,
Pan.
with
Wow.
Hugh Jackman as Blackbeard.
Yes.
And
Garrett Hedlund is
Garrett Hedlund.
Hot-
Is it
Oh my
Hunnam or
God.
Hedlund?
Yeah,
Garrett Hedlund is Hot Hook.
right. What's your name? John Hook. Me here with these two normal hands.
Rooney Mara as Tiger Lily
Correct.
in one of the
that was a
more
whole-
disastrous casting
yeah.
decisions of
The
recent
whole
years.
thing.
A musical number in which the
Right, they do
Lost Boys
Smells Like
sing
Spirit?
"Smells Like Teen Spirit."
This movie is not real.
Real. That's real.
Real.
It's
What?
Real.
It's real as a heart attack.
Yeah,
Was it for
I don't know.
children?
No one knows who it was
like
for.
$200 million
No,
budget.
the FBI is still trying to figure out who that movie was
Humongous.
for.
Yeah.
It made $35 million domestically.
Period.
Woof.
Domestically.
Yeah. They would have been disappointed if that were the opening.
They would have been. And yet that was not the opening.
No.
Number 4 at the box office.
Mhm.
A Low-Key Charmer, the last film by this great director, but maybe she's got another movie coming soon.
Okay, so she's not retired. It is called The Intern.
It's called The Intern.
Ugh.
Cha-ching.
What if Robert De Niro was an
Nancy.
intern?
Yeah.
We've all heard of interns. Sure.
Got it.
sure.
What
Young,
if?
Zach
strapping.
Perlman.
Yeah, Zach Perlman. Adam Devine. The guy who directed Big Time Adolescence.
right.
Now, what if the intern was old?
Wait.
How-
Think about
Olivia,
that,
Olivia,
guys.
Olivia, wait a second,
Guys.
wait a
What do
second,
you
wait a
mean?
second, wait a
Like
second.
70.
Like
What are you
retired?
like
talking
retired.
about?
Like bored in
Like Linda
retirement.
Lavin is trying to fuck him in the middle of Park Slope?
Too old to learn new tricks. What are you talking about?
No.
Wait, is he going to teach the busy CEO of this company any life lessons?
I think.
I think she might.
Is he going to maybe like not put his thumb on the scale hard enough for like divorce your fucking cuck husband?
The worst husband in the history of movies.
Who is Anders Holm?
Anders Holm.
The heck? Okay.
Look, mistakes were made in the mid 2000s.
I have faith that Nancy will get this movie made, starring. Say it with me, Michael Fassbender.
Michael F.
Not someone who you
Bender.
felt was on the
No.
runway for romantic comedy.
Michael Fassbender in a Nancy Myers movie is
love
like
it.
something that was made in a lab just for
Well,
me.
my understanding of this project is it sounds a little America's Sweethearts where Fassbender and Cruise would be the like temperamental, difficult, self-serious movie stars in the movie being made by Owen Wilson, Scarlett Johansson, who would actually be the proper romantic.
Yes, and they
Right. Michael
are
Fassbender
Nancy,
is not a Charles Shire type.
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say, and they're the
Yeah.
Nancy and Charles Shire.
Right.
Owen
Yeah.
Wilson more of a Charles Shire type.
Yes.
I don't
It's
know.
like
man.
sign me up. That sounds
Good
awesome.
chill.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. Wilson.
wild?
Well, I guess Wilson
That we've been
Weatherspoon.
recording for 3 hours. What?
No, Wilson Weatherspoon are both in Inherent Vice, but not in scenes together. But it feels like they. Well, fucking. How do you know?
Yes.
How do you know?
I'm sorry. Why am I saying Witherspoon? I'm combining home again. Wilson and Johansson. Have they ever done anything together? What am I
Are they
talking
both?
about?
Are they both Wes Anderson? Is she a Wes Anderson person? We've been in here so long that my
I know.
brain has fried.
I don't know. I can't answer that question for you.
My
They're
brain's
both
fried.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in different places.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot that he's in the. Okay.
Loki, come on. We gotta fix the timeline.
Have you seen that interview? Whatever late night talk show it was.
Griffin, this better be good.
It's so funny. It's so
Like the
funny.
Martian
Ben's
bit?
mad.
It's so funny.
I don't
Oh
know.
God.
It's on Kimmel or whatever. They say, "How do you feel when they call you to ask you to be in the Marvel universe?" And you go, "Great, Kevin Feige called me to talk about this character." And I said, what's his powers?" And he went, "Well, he's like a really good listener."
Okay.
Was it worth it?
Ben
I
is
think
so mad.
Ben is
Number
standing up,
5 at the box office.
going to the bathroom.
Yep. Is a crime drama
Okay.
from a blank check director we have yet to cover.
Okay.
Great film in my opinion.
Huh.
Very dark.
Very dark.
Very dark.
It's not Killing Them Softly.
No. I love that movie.
That's a dark movie.
We're never doing him though.
Well, he made a mistake. He made a whoopsie. He made a 3-hour whoopsie.
Did you see Blonde?
Of course not. I respect myself.
Yeah.
Olivia, you do respect yourself.
I had too many people texting me being like, I couldn't get through Blonde, or like telling me about what happens in Blonde, and I was like, why would I waste my time?
Why?
Same.
I only have so much precious time on this earth.
in a theater.
Ugh.
It's all having. Okay, wait. Blank check filmmaker, incredibly dark crime film, 2015. It's a flop.
No, kind of a low key hit.
What's
It's a sequel.
Sicario?
Sicario.
Got
it. Do you like Sicario?
Here's a fun fact about me. I saw Sicario in Paris.
Wow.
That's just
Ooh
and,
la la.
ooh la la, indeed.
Yeah.
Kind of
These
too late.
Americans.
Kind of
Can't
too
control
late
their border.
into my semester abroad did I realize you could go to the movies.
It's
Yeah.
the best thing to
It's
do
the
in
best thing
Paris.
to
The
do.
number
Yeah.
one best thing to do.
They'll
in
give
Paris.
you, an English movie,
Yeah.
French subtitles.
French
very,
subtitles, or they'll, it's great. It's hard in Sicario is hard though, because when they're speaking Spanish in
You
Sicario,
got-
the
you gotta
subtitles
write
are
it.
in
Oh,
French.
sure.
Or you got to just try and lock your French and
Yeah, that's
just
kind
be
of.
like,
I was
okay,
like, I can kind of
okay,
figure this out.
Also in the top 10,
Mm.
The Scorch. We were in The
The
Scorch.
Scorch Trials.
Welcome
Is
to
that the Maze
Scorch.
Runner?
Yes, the
sequel?
Maze Runner : The Scorch Trials.
That's 2?
That's the one where Dylan O'Brien almost died.
No, that's
he died
Death
on 3.
Cure,
I mean,
Oh, okay.
almost
which
died.
is 3. They found the cure for death. It was
Almost
long,
killing
long
Dylan
production
O'Brien.
hiatus.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Number 7 is The Walk, also expanding this weekend. Welcome to New York City. Number 8, Black Mass. God, ugh,
Ugh.
Jesus
That's-
Christ.
that
There's a
is-
lot of early Oscar season wipeouts.
That's the definition of like a fucking Wikipedia entry movie for me.
right.
Is that the Whitey Bulger?
Yeah. Hey, what's the matter with you? I'm Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
Number 9, Everest. Kind of another,
Mhm.
not even a flop, but like Oscar whiff. But
Yeah.
I like that movie.
I still need to see it. Never seen it.
And number 10, The Visit. M. Night Shyamalan's
Mm.
low-key
A
comeback.
lot of blank check movies in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good time
Good
for
time.
me. I don't remember what was going on in my
I
life.
don't either. It's just because there's so many blank check movies and stuff.
It's
What
a
month is it?
masterpiece.
October.
I feel like it's the kind of movie that Boyle doesn't get enough credit for
Sure.
because it becomes the
The
Sorkin movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously the Sorkin script is very important,
Mhm.
but I think it's a beautifully made film.
I think it's a very great meeting of the minds for two guys who are kind of like maximalists in like different ways.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they like really meet and gel
Yeah.
in a great way. And I would love it if Sorkin would let other people direct his stuff
We
again.
really need it.
There are a lot of guys who could do it,
That
It's
would
not
be
him.
wise.
but like get Soderbergh in there. What's your problem?
Oh,
Mm.
Imagine
please.
that. Imagine.
Imagine.
That would be great. That's what he needs.
That's a good question. Who do I want to see tackle
Anyone.
a Sorkin script?
Truly, anyone.
Anyone.
Anyone. I'll do it.
I'll scratch one director off the list.
Who's that?
Aaron Sorkin.
Ah.
Does
Okay.
not seem to have a way with the material.
Next week,
Yes.
after these strange post-Oscar years, Danny Boyle retreats to a sequel. His
The
first
one that
sequel.
everyone's demanded, begged him to do for 20 years.
T2 Trainspotting.
And then they say, sorry, I was washing my hair that day.
Right. That's what's next week. Take us out, please. Griffin Newman.
Olivia Craighead.
Oh, we love
Guys.
her.
Five-timer.
A five-timer.
Five-timer. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I am exhausted now.
Yeah,
I
same
feel like
here.
we all kind of ran a marathon together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wouldn't have
Imagine-
it any other way though.
Imagine how much more difficult it would have been with the treadmills. With the goddamn treadmills.
If we had done this on treadmills, it would have been an hour and a half, which I actually think people would be really mad about.
Yeah.
It would have sped us up because we would have been out of breath.
Yeah.
We would have been heaving
Imagine us being like, and Lisa is
huffing
awful,
like Rogan.
huffing and puffing about local integrated systems architecture.
Anything you want to plug, Olivia?
No.
Great. Thank you all for listening. Olivia's the best. Follow her on things. Olivia
Or
Craighead.
leave her alone. If she
Or
does
leave
it.
me alone. Yeah, that's
We had
kind
a
of
great
it. I'm
dinner
around.
at Joe Jr. the other.
Okay, shut the fuck
We
up.
had burgers.
This is not. I'm trying to end the show over here.
David gave me some really good gossip.
About what? About
Oh,
who?
We'll talk
It's
about
off
it
mic.
later.
You're gonna tell me off, Mike. Though
I
the
can't remember
second
what it was, but I bet it was
you
good.
you clearly remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're finishing this fucking episode.
Oh, I remember what it was. It was good.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for our social media, Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song, Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, JJ Birch for our research. David is going to sleep. Don't wake Daddy, folks, over here in the corner, putting the sleeping cap over his head.
Don't get too rested. We got to record ads.
Oh, right. Alex
Oof.
Barron, AJ McKeon for our editing. David, his eyes have turned into flames. Go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon, Blank Check special features, where we do franchise commentaries like the Men in Black films. We're also doing the Boyle Olympic ceremony, as we talked about. I think that will have already dropped by now. Tune in next week for T2, Trainspotting 2, Judgment Day. And as always, I'm up to 236 diamonds.
Thank you for calling the Burger Report hotline. 802-8-BURGER. Please leave a message with your famo, type of burger, and location, and we will try to put it on the podcast if we can. That's 802-8-BURGER.
Hey, Griffin and David. A couple years ago, I was walking to my friend's apartment, and I got a text that said to look into Whitman's in New York on, 9th Street. And they said, look into the window and tell us who that man is eating a burger, because we know he's famous, but we don't know who it is. So I walk by, I look in, and I saw Danny Boyle, famed director of Slumdog Millionaire, eating a burger.